Hello, everyone. This is Chris, and I'm the host of the weekly Spinner Rack. That's the show you're watching. You knew that because you know what you clicked on. You are smart. I am not so smart. I am starting a good 8 minutes late. Sorry. At the last minute, I had to run an errand to get my wife some medicine, and I just didn't have time to set up my equipment beforehand. I just had to reboot my computer a few times. I'm really sorry that I'm starting this slow. But what are you watching if you're new? This is a show where I talk about, the latest comic books that came out, and we talk about the news of the week. There's a lot of comic book news because I wasn't available last week. That was tough. And some of the news is like a little upsetting because there's industry concerns. But I balanced that out by finding a lot of really cool and exciting news that I'm really excited to share with you. And I think that I'll even have time to do some drawing. So that's good. I'm excited about that. Let me give some shout outs to just a few folks. I can't do everybody, but wow, we're starting off with a super chat. Nothing wrong with that. Thank you very much, Rebellious Monkey. I sincerely appreciate it. Hello, Finn. Hello, Beowulf. Philip, Circuitron, Andy. Hey, it's my friend Randy. Yes, that is sort of a slightly good piece of news regarding the tariffs. I'll talk about that in quite a while. But as long as he's here, my friend Randy, great guy, has put out a lot of great comics, and he's got a fantastic one out right now on Kickstarter. It's called Bullet Adventures. It's about a super speedster. She's fantastic. Really great adventure. This is issue 7. So if you haven't read the previous ones, they've got trade paperbacks or single issues you can easily bundle in. I recommend it. Randy always gets great talent together for his comics. He pays them. He delivers really fast. So on Kickstarter, that's Bullet Adventures. I strongly recommend it. Really, really good. Hey, Steve, best part Monday. I hate Mondays like Garfield. Hopefully I can balance a little of that out. We'll start the week with a little bit of fun here, right? Your videos always cheer me up. Ben, your $5 cheers me up. I'm going to take that $5 and I'm just going to hold it. I'm just going to hold on to it and just sort of cuddle up against it at night. I'm going to crinkle it up against my face. Between my head and the pillow, there's going to be $5. And I go, Ben likes me. No, thank you very much. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I'm glad the tariffs are delayed too. They don't make any sense. Will you be drawing more comic pages or continuing your Black History Month pieces? Tonight, I think I will work on my Black History Month piece. I've got a Blade and War Machine drawing I was inking. I've got some new pens and brushes that I picked up in Japan, and I want to play with those some more. And then I'll go back to sort of drawing my comic. Anyway, yeah, nice to see all of you. So let me throw up the news and get into it because I'm obviously starting late. So I need to sort of do a few things behind the scenes where I'm sharing a screen. And let's see. There we go. That pulled up. That pulled up just fine. I'm just trying to see. I thought I'd figured out the layout that I liked. Where is it? That's not it. I've got a layout where I'm small and overlaid. I guess that's okay for now. That'll work. So let's talk about some news. And this is a really cool piece, okay? The Massive Verse. The Massive Verse includes books like Radiant Black, Rogue Sun, Inferno Girl Red, Radiant Pink, No One. It's all connected. But the cool thing is that each book just does its own thing. And characters might cross over into that, indicating a shared universe. But you don't have to go like Radiant Black 30, Rogue Sun 27, Radiant Pink 7. You don't have to jump around like that. It's everything self-contained in its own title. And I think that's a great way of doing things so that people don't feel obligated to pick up extra books. You know, it's a really nice way to share a universe. But it's been going a couple years. They're creating a nice, easy jumping on point. If you've never tried it before, they're catching you up. I think it's great. So, just recently, there was that free Radiant Black, The Story So Far comic that you can get in a lot of comic book stores. If your store ordered it, that was free. It's also online. Well, now they've created a short video version. It includes Will Friedle and Ryder Strong voicing the characters, just like they did in the short animation that Radiant Black made a while back. Let me actually add that video file. It's just too fun.
I'm Nathan Burnett, struggling writer.
I'm Marshall Ward, movie buff and future entrepreneur.
After I fell $40,000 into credit card debt, I moved back home.
And I didn't move back home because I never left.
One night, we found this miniature black hole called a Radiant. It made me a superhero, and then I died. Sort of.
So I took the Radiant, it made me a superhero too, and I brought Nathan back.
There were other Radiants. Red could absorb matter.
She's okay.
Pink could open portals in space.
We like her.
Yellow could see the future.
But has somehow never seen out of sight. Lame.
There were enemies, too.
Lots of enemies.
For a while, we were both Radiant Black, but that couldn't last. We had to choose.
This huge robot army came to Earth. They called themselves Catalyst, led by this total douchebag Premier.
They challenged Radiant Black to a series of trials.
But our yellow guy did a crazy thing.
Since he couldn't see how the war would turn out, Radiant Yellow held open 2 parallel timelines, one where I was Radiant Black and one where Marshall was. In both timelines, there were wins.
And there were losses.
I lost my dad.
I lost my Nathan.
Radiant Marshall won. It cost him everything.
Radiant Nathan lost, but he fought back and kicked ass across Chicago. See, in his timeline, I built a weapon. Something to separate the Radiants from everything connected to them.
And it worked!
Well, don't sound so surprised, Ryder.
Have you met Marshall? I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's because you lack vision.
It's a 90-second video, just keep going.
So, cut off from their god, the Catalyst army fled.
But Wendell couldn't keep both timelines open, and they started to collapse.
So the other me, Radiant Marshall, took the yellow Radiant and made the ultimate sacrifice, closing his timeline and leaving just ours.
And then we had a choice to make.
Again.
I decided to move back to LA, while Marshall...
Well, hold on. I want to do it.
All yours.
I'm Radiant Black.
And now, it's all about what comes next. New villains, new surprises, and even
whoa! No spoilers.
So there you go. I just thought that was a really good bit of marketing. Those actors have voiced the characters in an animation. It's up on YouTube on the Black Narrative website. And basically, they gave you what's important so far, but you can jump on with issue 31, and it's sort of a fresh start, which I think is smart. I think Robert Kirkman always did a good job on Invincible with like jumping on points so that new readers could get into it. I've enjoyed this book quite a bit, so I thought I'd share that. And there's a little bit more to share. Hold on. Let me add this back. Nope. Yeah. There is an animation. Yeah. It's really good animation too. So thank you to Kyle for sending me that file so that I could share it. I thought that was cool. A few other jumping on point pieces of news here. Rogue Sun is a book in that world, more of some supernatural stuff. It's set in New Orleans, a city I love. Went there for college. Here's a website, Kyle Higgins Substack, and you can read a catch-up like story so far if you are curious about Rogue Sun at all, or if you dropped off. Also, if you're there, you can get the trade paperbacks for both like Radiant Black and Rogue Sun for 15% off. And if you sign up for their newsletter, they give you an additional 10%. So you can get trade paperbacks right now for 25% off. Not bad. There's the website if you want to pause it and go to their website, but it's black-market-narrative.com. And they've got, the trades for sale and gear. Here's one more piece of news. I'm going to toot my own horn here. Well, sorry, I got ahead of myself. I will say, just how you just saw that video with a professional set of voice actors doing the Radiant Black catch-up, I'm not going to tell you who, but a cool voice actor is going to do one for Rogue Sun. So that will be coming out really, really soon. I think you'll enjoy it. Well, did I have one more bullet point here? Yes. I've got a contribution in issue 32 of Radiant Black. So not only is this a decent jumping on point, but if you like me, I did get to write and draw something. It will be in issue 32 of Radiant Black. So issue 31 comes out the end of February. That's the fresh jumping on point. Issue 32, I've got something. So I hope you'll consider checking that out. I want to plug it like crazy. Basically, all you have to do, like if you have a local comic shop, I'd strongly encourage you to ask if they could pull that issue aside for you or order one for you. So I'm excited to see what you guys think. Again, something I both wrote and drew. Got to work with my friend Mark Englert on colors, and one of the best letterers in the business, Becca Carey, was kind enough to letter it. And so, yeah, that's going to be in Radiant Black issue 32. Something I wanted to talk about right up front. I wanted to focus on the positive and stuff. It's not huge or anything. I'm just doing sort of a backup thing, but very kind of Kyle Higgins to give me that little opportunity. And I thought you guys honestly might enjoy it. I think it's fun and funny, and the comic is cool. So it's a good point to jump on. If you've never tried it, or if you fell off, you could jump back in very easily with issue 31, and I'm in issue 32. Okay? So, yep. Becca has done the lettering for almost everything Kyle has worked on. She's great. She's really, really good. I got to meet her in New York for New York Comic Con. She came to the Massive Verse meetup thing. Very humble, very talented. You guys know I'm a nerd for every aspect of comics, like, inkers, letterers, colorists, editors, the people that work at print shops. I find all of their work fascinating. Give me a comic book store employee to talk to. I'll talk their ear off about their job. Lettering is something I've done before in more like indie comics. And I think it's an art, I think it's an art to do it well. And I think Becca's really good. That's really exciting. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Very nice. Yeah, now you have to get back into Radiant Black, right? Yes. It's small, but I did want to pick it up. I'm in issue 32. Issue 31 is the one that comes out this month, at the end of this month, with sort of a fresh jumping on point. Yeah, she's good in a lot of ways. Excited for Radiant Black and Rogue Sun to return later this year. Me too. So I'll keep going, but I wanted to share all of that. I think that that's a fun way to start things. And here's another nice piece of news. I think anybody that's been to Comic-Con, the Comic-Con in San Diego, likes it for what it is. And it's going to stay in San Diego for the foreseeable future. So Comic-Con International had expressed out, we talked about this in some of the news, as to how long they could stay in San Diego. They felt that they were sort of having trouble, like with it gets bigger and bigger, and they need affordable and hotels and availability for those hotels to justify staying in that city, or they might have to go to a bigger city or a different city anyway. So that was a concern that they had. But this past week, the mayor of San Diego, Todd Gloria, announced that both the city and Comic-Con have agreed to host the show through at least 2027. So we've got 3 more years there, 25, 26, 27. Not bad. Not bad. We'll be talking about that a little later tonight, Wayne. Good question. What else? Here's a quote from a Comic-Con spokesperson. We are excited to stay in San Diego for the next few years, which is possible in large part to the many hotels who offer competitive rates and meeting space, said Comic-Con spokesperson David Glanzer. It is vitally important to maintain affordable hotel rates for the tens of thousands who visit San Diego for Comic-Con each summer. And while it came down to the wire, we are grateful for the additional hotels who came on board to allow for this agreement to be signed. In 2024, just to give you an idea of what the impact of Comic-Con is on the city, the last one generated an impact of about $160 million in revenue, and it generated more than $3 million in hotel and sales tax revenues for the city of San Diego. So it's really, really good for the city. You know, they're bringing out of town dollars that get used in taxes and such, and local businesses for their infrastructure, firemen, roads, schools. It's a benefit to have a big event that's this popular. Jake asks, is there still much of a comic book presence at Comic-Con? Absolutely there is. It's still mostly comics. Hollywood is close by. They love to, talk to the audience. I get it. There's all sorts of weird merch too, but San Diego definitely still has a huge presence, including a great artist alley. So yeah. So Comic-Con International, if you're listening, I'd be happy to do a panel if it gets me tickets. I'll throw that out. I'm such a whore. A dirty, dirty one. I plan on going to San Diego Comic-Con this year. Well, thank you again for the super chat, and I hope you have a fantastic time. No, I don't think that there's anything imminent that would end it, but I do think that if they can't make it work in San Diego, that they could take it elsewhere. Los Angeles, for instance, Sacramento, I don't know. Comic-Con International is different than, say, New York Comic-Con or other events like that, because Comic-Con International is technically a non-profit. So they are not designed to make lots of money. What they make, they hold on to and reinvest into the convention itself to get the guests and the hotel space that is overflowing from the event center, which they have to book, marketing and stuff like that. It's not designed as a purely for-profit event. So that makes it very different. Thank you. I guess I didn't talk about it much, folks, but I had gone on a trip, and the reason I didn't get to do this show last week was once we got to Japan, unfortunately, my wife got very, very sick. I won't bore you with all the details and everything, but it got serious enough that we had to take her to the hospital there in Japan for a while. She got admitted, got blood transfusions, and we cut our vacation very short and rushed back to the States. And then she was in the hospital for just until yesterday. So it's been a really challenging time. I think you can understand why I couldn't fit in doing a live stream among all of that. So we didn't really get our full vacation. We didn't get our time together that we were looking forward to. I hope we can revisit that at some point. The good news is Chrissy's home. She still feels kind of tired. We got to figure some things out. It's a challenging time. We had to spend a bit of money to rush home, and the hospital stay here in America. Of course, we've got health insurance, but there's always a high deductible when you're admitted to a hospital for some days. Well, I shouldn't say always. Most insurance plans have something like over the year you have to spend $15,000 or so before insurance kicks in to cover everything else. So yeah, we're looking at, we've probably racked up within a week, I'm assuming with everything together, a $20,000 bill. Not fun. So you can probably see why I get excited by things like the $2 and $5 super chats. It makes a huge difference right now. I may have to find some extra time to do some commissions, for instance. Although, you think of it like, well, what's $100 going to do? Well, it's going to do better than nothing. So anyway, I probably shared too much. I'm dealing with some stressful stuff. Doing this stuff, talking about comics and stories and getting to interact with, clever and informed people like you guys is my happy place. So trust me, very happy to be doing this right now. I was not the only translator. There was an official translator, but she worked from like 11 to 8. And of course, she had other patients and duties and stuff. So she wasn't there all the time. I'll tell you this. I'm kind of proud of myself at my level of Japanese. I would not call myself fluent, but I'd say I'm conversational enough. I've got enough like verbs and adjectives to get through things, saying like I want or I need, this, that, there, those, me, you. I was kind of proud of myself, like that I was able to carry on conversations with them. Oh, thank you, Winston. Thank you. Not begging for money, but thank you very much. Always appreciated. Wow. Appreciate that, Daryl. Tonight is looking good. I'm not just going to take us out to dinner. I got myself the makings for a nice little salad. Very affordable, very healthy. I just wanted to share with you guys a little about what I'm going through because I try to be transparent. I don't want to overshare and talk about stuff that isn't related to comics, but I did want to share like why I couldn't do a show last week. And maybe if you see me at all, like getting irritable or anything, it's because I'm stressed out, but things are pretty good. All things considered, because my wife is alive and home. She got home last night. So that means a lot to both of us. Anyway, thank you very much for the kind words. I'll get back to talking about the news. If you're curious, by the end of the show, I'll do some drawing and I can take questions. But for now, we'll talk about comics. We all like comics. Let's go ahead and talk about this. I was just a little too old and I missed the Captain Planet cartoon. I was aware of it, but I think I might have been in like college, at least high school, maybe. I don't quite know. But I know it was popular and still kind of beloved, and Dynamite has the rights to make it as a comic book, which I thought was kind of cool. Hey, a super sticker at 320 yen. That's fun. Thank you very much. That's really nice. That's really, really nice. Chrissy did get served some food and it was very healthy, but very tasty. We got like a really lovely, like a chicken and rice and miso soup. It was really good. Oh, wow. Wow. Thank you, Nachiket. Thank you very much. I deserve a break. Maybe, but I am excited about what I'm working on for Comic Tropes. I'm doing an episode about the Spider-Man manga, which kind of failed twice. So it's an interesting story. It's a really interesting story. All right, let's talk about another super chat. I can't ignore them. Would be thrilled to have a commission. If I open that up, I'll let you guys know. Right now, I don't want to commit to it because I don't know about my time, but I might do it. I might do it because I need to. We will see. I'm sort of waiting to get the full bills so that I've got everything lined up. What do I owe? Yeah. It is not Don Cheadle as Captain Planet. I remember that video. No, not Spider-Man Fake Red. That one was actually fairly successful. Oh, wow. I don't like being irritable. I like being nice to people. I like having good conversations. I like joking around. So I like being if I can, a positive person. All right. Yeah, Captain Planet is relevant and classy. I agree. So let's talk about it briefly. Dynamite announced Captain Planet #1. It's going to be by David Pepose, who's been writing for them Space Ghost, which I know has been doing very well, and artist Iman Casalos. And I'm not familiar with them, but the art looked definitely solid. And that comes out in April. Hey, look at folks. I hope I'm not guilting you into this, but I am grateful. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Oh, wow. Another 5. I continue to look forward to your art books when you get them together. That's not a bad idea. Maybe that would in some ways be easier. You've given me something to think about. You don't like Captain Planet? I just don't know Captain Planet that well. But some of this is nice. Okay, so first of all, it is based on the 90s cartoon. I think she's the spirit of Earth, Gaia. She grants 5 children over the world the ability to summon this being, Captain Planet. And he protects the planet against pollution and eco-terrorism and stuff like that. He should be promoted. Major Planet. That just sounds like kind of a chubby guy, though. Ooh, that is a major planet. Hey, Colin! Oh my gosh. Colin was a coworker of mine years ago. Great guy, really smart. He's a teacher now. You're doing great, Chris. Love seeing what you do. Sending good vibes to you and Chrissy. Hey, thanks, buddy. I hope you've got a cool vehicle or two to work on these days. Thank you, Nerd Nonsense. And you were in my live stream when I was drawing. Nice to see you again. So the first issue of this is coming out on Earth Day, April 23rd. That's good marketing. That's clever. Oh, good. I hope you enjoy that. I was talking up the other day, folks, a cool book called Trashed by an indie writer artist that goes by the name Durf, Backdurf. And Trashed is the story of a garbage man. It's based on his real life stories being a garbage man. And it tells you how different countries deal with trash, which is actually tremendously interesting. I'm glad you tried it out. Rear Admiral Planet. So far, that is the joke of the night. That is the I'm going to have to start awarding it because you guys are clever. He did do My Friend Dahmer, which is also an excellent comic. Rear Admiral Planet is my favorite so far. Captain Planet is printed on 70% recycled paper. By the way, that's just what Diamond does with all their comics. Not bad. And I don't know. Do I have a Diamond comic tonight? I think I do. I do have a Diamond comic tonight. Hold on. I'm going to open one up just to take a closer look at the paper quality because as I recall, it's good. It's not weird or anything. Yeah. It's glossy, but maybe arguably a little thinner than some paper, but it's still very bright and glossy, which is nice. The colors pop on it. It's good paper. So 70% recycled. Hey, good for the planet. I love it. Yeah, this is Terminator talking about YouTubers that are doing backups. There's Sal from Comic Pop has 2 pages in the back of this issue, and I got the foil cover. Declan Shalvey's got some interesting ideas in this book. Brutal Wally. Hey, no one. Your channel helped me through many days. Thank you for all your hard work. I hope Chrissy gets well soon. Yeah. Got some big question marks as to exactly sort of what's causing this, but right now she's stable. Which is, I'll take it. I'll take that as a win. Thank you very much for caring. Save on paper by recycling every issue of Youngblood #1. Hey, Youngblood sells every time it comes out. And I don't know if you saw, but Image is reprinting a trade paperback of the original Youngblood issues. I don't know. I don't think Rob has the full rights to Youngblood, but he's definitely involved in it right now. Kyle, lovely to have you here, man. Yeah, we were all excited to talk about Rogue Sun and Radiant Black early tonight. I think that those catch-up videos, comics, and fresh jumping on point are just a really solid idea for anything that's ongoing. I think you need those every once in a while. Marvel and DC, you could argue, sort of do it by getting a new creative team and just saying, this is issue 1. But I think a lot of us like a continuity of the same creative team on a book and to see what kind of wild directions they can take it. And the challenge there is, how do you create good entry points as it goes along? And I think you're doing a great job with it. So that's a sincere compliment I wanted to pass on. Let's see. Going back to the news on this, there was one other thing I thought was kind of cool about this. No, I guess the coolest thing to me was the 70% recycled paper. But first issue, variant covers by Mark Spears, super popular right now. Christian Ward, love him, and Ben Oliver. And then the first 6 issues will feature connecting covers by Jay Lee and Jun Chung. I think that helps. Boy, I bet Dynamite is one of those companies that's having a tricky time right now because their distributor is Diamond. They've got to be like the biggest publisher with Diamond right now. I'll go to the next piece of news. Oh, wow, hold on. I'm new to comics, and your channel has been great to learn about them. Oh, thank you. I wish you the best too, Chompson. Thank you very much for the pounds. Most people don't thank people for getting pounded. I'll thank people for getting pounded when it's that money. I'm going to turn into that bad Watto impression I've got. Your Jedi tricks do not work on me, only money. As soon as I say that, I realize that sounds offensive. Never mind. I'll never do Watto again. Hey, cool, from New Zealand. What time is it there? It must be morning. I'm a decent dude and deserve all the earn and deserve all the support you attract. Best to you both. Now on with the show. Thank you very much for the kindness. Very, very much appreciated. New Zealand still calls their currency dollars, correct? By the way, my grandfather was from New Zealand, so high on my bucket list is to go to New Zealand. Specifically, he was from an area called Whangarei, so I really want to visit that someday. That's really high. Watto! I can't help it. It's fun to say. All right. What other news do we have? I'm going to summarize some of the fallout from Diamond Distribution declaring bankruptcy. This is just some of the high-level changes that we've had in the last basically week and a half. Well, of course, Rob had the rights to all of his stuff that he created as a creator originally, but at a certain point, he sold off the rights to a bunch of his properties. And that was one of them. I don't remember why, but he sold off a lot of his rights. Youngblood, Brigade, Supreme. I don't remember what he kept and what he sold off, and it went to different people. I heard a little bit about that. We'll talk about some of that a little bit later. Oh wow, Tomorrows. I didn't think about them. They do some good journalism in a field where, honestly, hey, now that I think of it, you know what? Okay, so first of all, there is good journalism in comics. I don't think there's a lot of journalism in comics. And I do like a lot of what Tomorrows does because they focus on interviews and deep dive interviews. And I like those. I like seeing deep dive interviews and retrospectives on careers. The nominations are currently up for the Eisners at San Diego Comic-Con. If you wanted to consider comic tropes or comic tropes after dark journalism, you can nominate it in the periodical format. That would be kind of cool because I don't think that there's ever been a YouTube show nominated there. It's always just been online and print publications. But I think that a lot of the best journalism about comics are the current up-to-the-minute interviews and analysis of comic books that are online. Not just me, of course. I'm saying that I think that's where some of the best journalism about comics is. Oh, let's see. Thank you, King Rex. Hope your wife feels better. Me too. Love catching your streams and appreciate what you do for small creators like myself. I do want to do a live stream within this week if I can for people that have like Kickstarters or self-published comics. I do want to do one of those. I'll announce it as soon as I can find the time. Let's get back to this Diamond thing because this is pretty big news. Is it like this? Is it like this? It's like this. First of all, Image has reduced the discounts that they offer to retailers. They're changing basically the format of them. First of all, they used to do annual discounts based on like a volume to now monthly volume. So you might have like really good discounts one month, but you might have smaller ones next, depending on which books you decide to carry. They are now going through Lunar, and I don't know, I'm not privy to what terms Image has through Lunar versus what they had with Diamond. But obviously they're being conservative with that. Hey, at least there are still discounts, I guess, and you can get the comics. But the challenge is that stores are going to be making a little bit smaller margins on Image Comics, and Image is a huge publisher, huge. So that's I feel for the stores in that regard. I feel for the stores. Massive Publishing, they've got things like what does Massive have right now? Do they have Whatnot, and they have Heavy Metal, and they have something else that I'm not thinking of. But anyway, Massive ended their exclusive deal with Diamond. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but they've ended their exclusivity deal. This one is interesting, folks. This is according to a Maryland Department of Labor filing, because that's where, of course, Diamond is headquartered, is in Maryland. And yet they have to file these things. When you've got bankruptcy, it's like a legal period where you can try to rearrange your debts and your payment terms, maybe get loans, maybe sell things, and you get time to try to manage yourself and stay in business. But listen to this. According to what they filed, this is this week, they will cease operation, Diamond will, and close its main office and lay off about 168 employees if they don't have a buyer by April 1st. That's what they filed with Maryland, that they'd be closing down. That is very soon. That is very soon. So we've got basically February and March for them to figure this out. And I hope they do. I hope they do. I think Diamond got complacent and not competitive, but Diamond doesn't just distribute some of the comics we love. It distributes all the merchandise that stores carry, t-shirts and toys. It distributes so many indie publishers, so many indies and self-published things. Wow. Jay recently sent in a comic to the P.O. box. Comedian in New York, I believe. I think you're based out of New York, right, Jay? Thank you for everything you put on your channel and being such an ally. No problem. I'm just bad at names. You just gave me a donation, so I'm trying to remember the name of your comic. I talked about that with it's not my place to say it, so I'll just be vague and say a trans family member. And they found the premise really, really cool and interesting, Jay. So thank you very much. Yes, Amelia. Yes. David, thank you. Wow, Cherry Pop-Tart as the icon. I wonder if I should ever talk about that sort of 70s and 80s erotic comics boom. Maybe I could talk about, in terms of a comic tropes episode, would this be interesting, to talk about Tijuana Bibles and then how those led to books like Omaha the Cat Dancer and Cherry Pop-Tart. Would that be interesting, I wonder? I think it could be interesting. I think that's something I'll consider. Because it's a fringe topic of comics, but it's still comics. I think people would find that interesting. Not to just sort of go oh, this is the piece that turns me on, but it was comics and it's business, and it's something that people wanted. So I think that would be interesting to talk about, this weird fringe stuff that slowly became more mainstream. Wow, Rebellious Monkey. Oh, thank you for that. I loved doing the video on Frank Frazetta. Loved it. It was a lot of research, but I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for the super chat. Let's see. So, other Fallout. IDW just had its quarterly meeting with investors and did its annual report. Listen to this. I read through it. It's pretty dry reading. Relevant to this. It listed, quote, substantial doubt about its ability to continue as an ongoing concern. That means like its ability to continue as a business due to the Diamond bankruptcy. Specifically, what happened is that Penguin Random House is owed the most by Diamond, owed like over $9 million. But what Penguin Random House is doing, because they're owed so much, they're in turn charging the people that they sort of like were the middleman for and saying like, okay, hey, these were your comics that like, you know, we distributed through Diamond or something. You owe us, instead of like us owing this portion, you know, to Diamond, you owe us that portion. Or sorry, I slightly misspoke. Instead of them like, you know, I've confused the whole thing. They're owed money by Diamond. They're trying to collect that from like some of the publishers and then making it the publisher's responsibility to try to collect that from Diamond. It's very confusing. It has to do with contracts. I am no lawyer. I don't know if that will work or not. But it almost doesn't matter because it's like these businesses need the money kind of quick, you know, to keep going. So IDW had like, you know, an annual report that didn't look super rosy. It didn't look great. Yeah. It's rough. They need the money that they're owed to keep going. Yep. They're leaning on the smaller companies to get their Diamond money. I also know plenty about bird law, but of course, there's very little bird law involved in Diamond distribution. The unladen swallow can only carry so many comic books. In fact, now that I think of it, what would the wind speed velocity be of a laden swallow that was carrying, say, 10 pounds of comic books? What would the airspeed velocity be? Now, I ain't no fancy lawyer per se, but I do know one thing. IDW and Diamond are both in trouble, Your Honor. What? I don't know that. What? All right. Let's go back to some fun stuff. This is fun to me anyway. Marvel has shared some of their Godzilla covers and their plans for this cool little team up. So Marvel and Toho officially teaming up for a bunch of Godzilla one-shots. And those include a Fantastic Four comic set in the 1960s. That's going to be written by Ryan North, art by John Romita Jr. He clearly did not do this cover. In this case, the cover is by Andy Kubert. Then we go to a Hulk book set in the 1970s, and that's by Jerry Duggan and artist Giuseppe Camuncoli. Spider-Man is going to be set in the 80s. That's by Joe Kelly and Nick Bradshaw. I really love Nick's take on Godzilla here. It reminds me a lot of the way Art Adams approaches Godzilla. And finally, we heard about X-Men set in the 90s, and that's by Fabian Nicieza, who of course was writing X-Men stuff in that era, and artist Emilio Laso. And you can also look and see, oh, what team have they used? It's totally the team from the 90s cartoon. So that's kind of clever. No, it's not by Frank Miller. I see sort of why you'd say that. It's interesting, you know, the artist has drawn the Showa era Godzilla, but with things like Shin Godzilla's eye and like, you know, sort of extra hinged jaw. I think this just looks fun. I want to see what happens in them. And I kind of like the idea of putting these in an era. You know, they're obviously not real like in continuity or anything. So let's just go fun. Let's just go fun. I'm looking forward to it. I love Godzilla. The other day I was opening some gachapon that I got, and these were fun. Here, let me see if I can share them a little better. I got these that you can assemble. It's like that gets blurry. So I've got Godzilla, Godzilla Jr., and Mothra. I think I kind of lucked out with what you can get in the gachapon machine. So some Godzilla I need to put together. Superheroes versus Godzilla Mendoza. I like that. Hey, thank you. Got to get the Marvel Godzilla Omnibus is fun. I made an episode about how crazy those 2 years of stories were. It's a really fun thing, but you didn't quite get what you're getting here. It was more Godzilla versus random monsters and Shield and Red Ronin. At the very end, yeah, like all the superheroes sort of ganged up on Godzilla and still couldn't take him down, but it was cool. There was some news about how Marvel almost turned Daredevil into a villain, like permanently. So this came out on Tom Brevoort's Substack, which is a fascinating newsletter. He takes a lot of reader questions. And one question posed to him asked if he thought Marvel could ever permanently change a hero to a villain. Not just sort of like, hey, they were brainwashed for like, a story arc, but like, just flat out like evolve a hero into a villain. Could that happen? And Brevoort said possibly if it was carefully done. But he listed 2 attempts that were reversed. So this is a quote from it. Just look at how many different creators over the years have attempted, unsuccessfully as it turns out, to redeem Hank Pym after he struck his wife Janet. In that story, writer Jim Shooter was trying to chart the course of a hero going legitimately bad, but that course was reversed even before the story was completed. And so the creators still try to take back the bad stuff the character did in those setup stories. It's a great point. He then discusses how, quote, a decade plus back, so he's talking right around 2010, when we were working on the Shadowland crossover, there was a real push internally to make Daredevil an out-and-out villain. At the time, Fox controlled the media rights to the character, and it didn't seem like they'd be coming back anytime soon. And there was an interest in beginning to build up Moon Knight as a similar player that could be exploited across other media. The Daredevil editor of the period, Stephen Wacker, had to work very carefully and very quietly to prevent Matt Murdock from crossing any lines of no return in that story. Whew. Yeah, we've had villains go to heroes. And we've had people stay as anti-heroes, which is, I think, what you could argue Punisher, the original Deathlock, various other characters. I think that they're, but we haven't really seen a hero, a major hero, an established, ongoing hero permanently become a villain. We haven't done that. We've moved a couple people like, say, Emma Frost away from being a villain into being a hero. And I don't think it's likely she would go back. So it was an interesting idea, though. That was like so petty that they were thinking of doing that, because like about 3 years after Shadowland was when they got the rights back all of a sudden. And then they could do the Netflix shows. So imagine if they had sort of ruined that character. Or not ruined, but changed it so that he wasn't a hero anymore. That would have really been detrimental long term. Fair. Yeah. Anyway. Well, yeah, that's not a bad. Actually, that's a pretty good example. That's a pretty good example. You're right. I mean, it's technically sort of treated as a variant, but that is Reed Richards becoming like one of the biggest Marvel villains. That's not bad. That's a good point. So just an interesting story of how Marvel almost kind of shot itself in the foot, in my opinion. Some MCU rumors. This happened today, and it sounded crazy to me, but Screen Geek reported that their sources are telling them that Kevin Feige is considering bringing Jonathan Majors back to wrap up the Kang story arc. What? I didn't see that coming. Maybe. He is. I know that Jonathan Majors is in like 2 big movies that are coming out. I think he had like a 52-day sentence where he was just sort of like imprisoned at home. It was like the case wasn't super strong on either side, to be honest. So it was like pretty messy. Weird. I don't know what to make of that. Hollywood insider My Time to Shine Hello said that they heard Marvel wants to sign Hugh Jackman as Wolverine for about like a 10-year period. He would be 66 at that time. Admittedly, he's still in great shape. So maybe, I mean, he can be a variant. I guess he doesn't have to be the original Wolverine for all of those or anything like that. Weird. Yeah, what was shouted out as a joke in the movie, but then you got a movie that makes over $1 billion. They're going to throw some money around to keep the people that were involved in there. I think that there's a huge difference between, you know, doing drugs and hitting someone. I think that there's a big difference. Maybe he's going to play Old Man Logan again. I don't know. He is very good as Wolverine. I think we'll all agree he's very good as Wolverine. I don't know if we want 10 more years of it. I think like 1 or 2 more sort of cameo type roles, maybe. It's really hard to imagine exactly what he's going to look and sound like in 10 years. Maybe. And finally, I just wanted to include this. Daniel Rickman, he's another insider, usually accurate scoops, Daniel RPK online. He reports Marvel does not intend to do an origin movie for the X-Men, that when they bring them into the movies, they'll basically have already been established somehow. And that would be similar to sort of how they treated Spider-Man and Fantastic Four. You know, we'll hear some of the origin stuff, but we all kind of know their origin. So it's really just going to probably be a little bit of dialogue or a quick little scene to establish something, but they're basically going to be established already. I think that makes sense. Daniel also said that Spider-Man will have an important role to play in the next Avengers movie. I don't think that's a surprise. And though this one was a little more surprising, the Ghost Rider will be a part of the movie. But they didn't say whether that's, say, bringing a variant like Nick Cage's Ghost Rider back, or there's been rumors that Ryan Gosling wants to play Johnny Blaze in the MCU. We'll see. Well, some characters have excellent origins, but then we've seen them so many times that we don't always need to see them again. But you're right. I think you don't always need it. You don't always need it. I think Superman legit has a great origin story, coming to from Krypton, you know, being raised by the Kents, growing up and, you know, becoming Superman in Metropolis. I think that like is legit a really interesting overall story. It's like a story arc. He goes through something, but we have seen that one a lot. So we'll see. I mean, they could. It would be a variant. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. started as though it was in the MCU, but by the end, it didn't match up anymore. And I think that they've retroactively said it's a parallel universe. Just a silly little thing that I thought sounded like a cute idea. Concert of Champions. Obviously riffing on the very first crossover event comic. Contest of Champions was It predates things like Secret Wars and Crisis on Infinite Earths. It really was the first event comic, like a maxi series. So anyway, Marvel announced a one-shot for April, and it's going to star its musical heroes. It's called Concert of Champions. Kind of amusing. Jason Liu and artist Rafael Loureiro, they did the recent Dazzler series. They're coming back for this as writer and artist. Dazzler's putting on a concert with other musical heroes like Lila Cheney from the X-Men stuff, Ghost Spider, she plays the drums, Luna Snow, I guess you could argue she's the most prominent South Korean superhero Marvel has. I think she's in Marvel Rivals, right? I think she's in Marvel Rivals. Anyway, and then there's going to be an evil black metal band called Deep Void that plans to ruin everything, and they say that we might see some familiar faces. Luna Snow? Yeah, she's only been sort of used intermittently by Marvel, but she's basically like a pop star with, I think, ice powers. She's in Marvel Snap now, and yes, she is in Rivals. Yeah. It's a cool character, but they haven't, like, they've pushed her here and there in like spurts, but they haven't like really given her. She needs, like, you know, to be on, say, the Avengers or the Fantastic Four, something like that, like, or an extended arc in Spider-Man, so that like the mainstream knows who this character is. But she's been around for several years now. Hey, maybe you'll pick up this comic and we can all learn who Luna Snow is a little better. Daniel Warren Johnson teased his Wolverine story. Oh my God, did it look cool, folks? It looked so cool. This is from his live stream just this past Friday, just a couple days ago. And if you read this, it's katakana for snicked or snicked. Anyway, Wolverine number 8 is going to be his legacy issue 400. Marvel revealed some details, including Daniel Warren Johnson doing a backup Wolverine story, and apparently from the art, set in Japan. He also showed something, I think it was today, on Instagram, a page of it. It looks very, very cool. Yes, an Oni mask. He drew this page on his live stream. It was really cool seeing that come together. No, I wasn't joking. He does like a Friday live stream where he draws, and on this page, like he used nibs, he used brush pens, he used actual brushes, he used Posca markers, he used whiteout pens, he used a parallel pen at one point. He used all these different tools, and it's like really exciting seeing somebody who's got their art station so organized that they can keep pulling out different tools for slightly different techniques. But it really helped with, like, you know, the way he like feathered some of these like lines, so some of these motion lines and stuff. Eventually he pulled out like a curve, like a French curve, and he was using that. Some really great techniques on display, folks. If you want to see a good episode of his show, I thought that this was a really good episode of his show, like using a lot of great tools. It was awesome. Yeah, I can see a little of that with his really big hair. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Tradmore did do a really cool Doctor Strange. Maybe I'll talk about that someday. I don't know. Maybe. Hard to know. I love it too. So anyway, that's coming up real soon. And there's been some teases on the art. It looks exciting. I'm going to pick it up for sure. Oh yeah, it's on sale April 16th. I'll just put that out there. Dandadan is on hiatus right now. I think you guys know that is just one of my absolute favorite manga. And I actually really like the anime adaptation as well. In fact, when I was in Japan, while I wasn't there for long, their prices are more competitive than here. So I was able to get both a, well, you can't see it because I'm so small, right? Let me just do this. I got Momo. She's the main character, well, along with Okarun. This is his transformed version when he's sort of like, he's got his yokai powers. I guess you can't see that too well with the reflection, but it gives you a bunch of different like heads and stuff, superposable. The SH figure arts. It was a really good price, and I love this manga. So yeah, I did get myself some action figures. I love Dandadan. The songs in your head? No quebra, quebra, quebra. Hide it, hide it, hide it, hide it. So good. Such a great opening. Anyway, so author Yukinobu Tatsu is taking a 1-month break from the manga. The book is scheduled to return with their chapter 183 February 25th. So he's already a little over a week into his hiatus. No word on why he's taking the hiatus. Like Weekly Shonen Jump just shared that it was going on hiatus for a month. Maybe he's just being healthy and giving himself a small break to get ahead or something like that. I hope. Of course, sometimes these guys work themselves way too hard in the manga industry, and it could be health reasons. I hope not. Oh, and also this week, the anime adaptation announced that it will be returning for season 2 this July. So it's a pretty short break between seasons 1 and 2. A movie in the works? Maybe he's doing research. These are nice, positive speculations. Maybe. Might be helping with the anime. Yeah, these are good. I agree. I hope he's just taking a break. Because I think it's only had, like, so far, it started in 2021, and so it hasn't quite been going 4 years straight, but I think he may have only taken, like, a 1-week break so far in that 4 years. So, I don't know. I hope it's just a break. They should do more frequent breaks or do at least a few less pages here and there. Yeah, so detailed and so energetic that it's just one of my favorites right now. One of my favorites. Am I going to cover the passing of the legend Jules Pfeiffer? I didn't have that for news. When did he pass? I think I missed when he passed. Huh. Ooh. July is going to be a busy month for nerds. I will be watching a lot. All right, moving on. Got a little bit more news. Neil Gaiman projects that have been canceled. Got to talk about it. There's been lots of fallout. So, in light of the very in-depth expose by Lila Shapiro for New York Magazine and Vulture, several companies have canceled their Neil Gaiman projects. This goes up to literally just like in the hour before I started my show. So, and here's something that sucks about this. I just want to say, these companies want to distance themselves because these are really strong allegations. Obviously, he hasn't been convicted of anything. He hasn't even been tried for anything. It's just allegations, but they're really serious allegations. And this expose backed it up with a lot of different people getting on the record. 8 different victims with very similar stories that had a lot of supporting evidence. What sucks is all the other people that have worked with Neil Gaiman, the artists and other co-writers and stuff, their residuals on reprints and stuff are just going poof. And who could blame them? A company doesn't want to be associated with that. They can't take that risk. They can't take that financial risk generally. But yeah, he's getting sued in 3 different states. It's not good. Not good. Doctor Who, maybe, but probably not because it's already done and kind of small. Tony Harris posted about how all the artists are getting hammered on royalties. And I feel for them. It's not their fault. But I also get why a company is just like, yeah, I'm not going to print that anymore. Maybe someday it'll come back, but we'll see. What I'm saying is that his actions have an impact beyond the people that he's abused. Let's listen to some of this. Oh yeah, exactly. This is such a great point. The original, like, the author, not author, but like the podcasters for Tortoise Media that originally broke this story, they were talking about how their original goal was to bring this to light in the hopes that the left wing would just fanatically defend Gaiman and look horrible doing so. They said that that was sort of their goal. So they had really bad goals originally. And that was why I was really curious when that first report came out, how accurate it was. But then this expose by Shapiro went so much more in depth and got so much more on the record than just sort of like one person. I was like, yeah, it's pretty damning stuff. Pretty damning stuff. So anyway, let's talk about the projects that have been canceled. First up was Dark Horse. They announced that they canceled Anansi Boys. That's an adaptation of Gaiman's novel, and it's actually by a different writer. It's by Mark Bernardin, artist Sean Martinborough, who's awesome. So issue 8 was going to be the final issue, and that was going to come out this month. Nope. They canceled that, and they canceled the trade paperback. Netflix announced that they're not going to continue the Sandman show past season 2, which they had already basically finished filming. It hasn't come out yet, but they'd finished filming, so I get why they would still release it. But yeah. That one, though, I sort of wonder how well that did versus how much Netflix spent on it. They may have been looking for an excuse to cancel it, but that's pretty broad speculation. Yeah. Just this week, DC canceled a facsimile edition of Sandman number 8 that they were going to be putting in stores. Essentially a reprint, if you haven't gotten a facsimile or seen one yet. But it's like reprinted with all the original stuff, like the original ads, the original letters, pages, stuff like that. And then just today, Marvel announced that they will not publish Miracle Man: The Dark Ages. And that bums me out. I really like the Miracle Man story. I did. But what can you do? What can you do? So, we got what we got out of the existing Miracle Man ideas. And I guess now Marvel will probably take it in a new direction, hand it off to somebody else. But that's 4 different companies that have parted ways with Neil Gaiman. And trust me, they're not making those decisions lightly. For instance, DC has not said that they're going to stop reprinting the trade paperbacks of Sandman. And I bet they will keep doing those. I mean, that is just too big a property for them to just abandon unless they absolutely have to. But all this other stuff, like the companies are just like, yeah, we just don't want to be associated. I'm bummed also that Dark Age won't happen, but I also get it. But I am bummed. I wanted to read that. I like it. Oh yeah, Calliope is. I don't think I could read it anymore. I remember the story. It's about a guy, basically, if you don't know, who traps he traps Calliope as his muse, and that gives him his ability to be creative and stuff, and he subjugates her and treats her horribly and stuff. And it just feels like such a self-insert with what we know now. Yeah. That isn't what Marvel said. Okay. Well, Tom Brevoort definitely confirmed that Miracle Man Dark Ages wasn't getting printed. So, yeah. We shall see what will happen. I doubt they'll pull it, to be honest. I doubt they'll pull some of the stuff that's done. He said there were no plans. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. And I said here that they won't publish it. Fair enough. Maybe I said canceled because I was just talking off the cuff with all this news. But yes, they're not going to publish it. They're not going to do it. So, a lot of fallout is all, and I feel really bad for all the other artists and writers that have relied on some of these royalty payments, residuals. Definitely stinky. Whoops, looks like I didn't format this too great. The GLAAD Awards will now include the full creative teams. As you can sort of see here, I know it's small, but basically, GLAAD, and if you don't know, that's the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. You probably know that, but just to be clear, they included comics starting last year as a category for awards, as its own category. And last year, their 35th awards, they only listed the writer of the piece. But this year, for the 36th awards, they've published this. They're including the full creative team. And I just think that's nice to say, like, hey, it's the whole piece. Oh, I guess that's why I missed it. I'm sorry to hear that Jules Pfeiffer passed. He was up there in years. Yeah, huge figure at DC Comics, especially. Big editor. I'd have to pull up all the things that he worked on, but yeah. Yeah, I guess that's it. Here's something that's fun too. DC shared their Summer of Superman initiative. Dan Slott, we already talked a little bit about this, joining Joshua Williamson, Mark Waid, Jorge Jimenez for DC's Summer of Superman Special #1. Boy, do they have some great artists over at DC. Lex Luthor returns in the oversized Superman #25. Superman the World experienced the Man of Steel Beyond Metropolis. I don't know exactly what that is, sorry. Superman's Good Guy Gang launches DC's new line of graphic novels for early readers. So basically, they're just doing a huge push on DC stuff leading up to the movie. A can't-miss selection of Superman's greatest hits for Superman Day, April 18th at participating retailers and on DC Universe Infinite. Could be a lot of fun. This is a lot of comics, but yeah, I mean, it's Superman. It's a huge property. Obviously, DC must have a lot of faith in the movie because, you know, they haven't done this for every movie or TV show that they've had that have come out, but they're putting out a lot. I agree. Yeah, a lot of people just start with the writer and then just end there. I heard about that. Yeah, G. Willow Wilson and Gavin Guidry doing a 2-part story in Action Comics beginning in April. Happy to see Gavin getting so much work. It's very cool. Gavin's great. I'm very excited to read his issue of Uncanny X-Men about Gambit set in New Orleans, where he's from. Superman and Lobo episode of the animated series. What a clever way to beat Lobo at the end. Loved it. Yeah, Gavin's great. This is just a fact. The Superman estate, I really stuttered that one out. The estate of Superman artist Joe Shuster, it has sued DC and Warner Brothers. Let's talk about what that is. So the executor of the estate of Joe Shuster, original Superman artist, co-creator, sued DC Comics and its parent company, Warner Brothers Discovery, on this past Friday, claiming the DC Universe lacks the copyrights to release an upcoming movie in several foreign markets. They may have missed a step here, thinking only of America. So the estate asserts that the assignment of the rights to the Superman story under copyright law in countries like, and they list Canada, the UK, Ireland, Australia, those all automatically terminated 25 years after Schuster's death. That would have made it 2017. Those rights would revert to the estate in those countries. Well, this lawsuit could theoretically delay the foreign release for July's Superman movie. And trust me, they know exactly how they're timing it. They're putting the pressure on DC by filing a valid legal claim very shortly before, so that DC doesn't have tons of time to sort of make a bunch of different offers to settle. You know, they're going to have to come at them with their best settlement, like really fast. And it sounds like they probably, you know, are owed. The estate is probably, from what I read on the court filing, it looks like, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but it looked very clear like the estate would have a lot of protections in these countries for owning the property, or at least some of the property. And therefore, if DC wants to release the movies in a bunch of these countries, they're going to have to settle with the estate. And that's as it should be. Remember, I mean, Superman was created by people, not a company. So I'm okay with the idea of DC keeping Superman going and you know, putting some of the best writers and artists on it. But the people that created it, they have legal rights, and their families have certain rights too. That doesn't go on forever, but right now, I think it's pretty cut and dry. Would that be an issue? I don't know what the Kirby settlement is. Marvel may have thought ahead and you know, settled for, you know, different countries having different rules for copyright. Siegel and Schuster both had a tough life. You know, they got a few settlements from DC over the years, nothing humongous. You know, they never became rich. They got paid a decent amount when the 1978 movie came out, and that's as it should be. But they never got super rich off their creation. That's for sure. That's for sure. The Summer of Superman. They should re-release Superman 64 on all consoles. What do you want to kill us? Oh my God, what a bad name. I remember a friend and I heard that it was bad, but we rented it. We weren't going to risk buying it, but we rented it. And we spent hours going back and forth just trying to get through this first level where you awkwardly fly as Superman through these rings and it's timed. And every little twitch sent Superman like flying off to the side and stuff. And then we finally sort of memorized the pattern for like going up and down and left and right through these rings. And then you have to like pick up a car and they don't really tell you what buttons to push. So we're just like flying through the car and have to start over again. And we hated that game. It was so bad and an abysmal game. An abysmal game. The Superman Atari 2600 and the Superman arcade game for, you know, like in the 80s and stuff, that wasn't too bad. That wasn't too bad for what it was. Oh, it's so bad. Oh, isn't that like a heartbreaking story? Yeah, Neil Adams used to talk about how, hold on, it was Joe Shuster and what Siegel? Joel Siegel? No, that doesn't sound right. Was it Joel Siegel? Siegel and Schuster. Joe Shuster. All of a sudden, I forget Siegel's first name. Was it Joel, or am I confusing myself? Anyway, yeah, he wasn't able to see the Superman on Broadway. Not that he missed much. It wasn't a good play. Jerry. Thank you, everybody. I'm like Judge Jerry Siegel. Thank you, everybody. Oh, my God. You know I'm bad at names when I can't remember something like that. It was something like that. Like their buyout was something like 150. And first of all, if we use the inflation adjuster, it's several $1,000s in today's day. And they didn't know that they had no notion that it would be a hit. But, you know, once it became a hit, you know, and once also copyrights didn't last as long until Disney kept extending it again and again and again for Mickey Mouse, but you used to not have quite so long. So they kept trying to get their rights back. No, it was super early in the comics world. That's why it's amazing that it was as successful as it was for as long as it's been. Superman's incredible that story still resonates with us. That's incredible when you think about it. It's like, what, 85 years or something now? It's close to that. Just amazing. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. The Crossed movie adaptation moved forward in a big way recently. Oh, excuse me. I'm confusing people. Jules Pfeiffer worked. Yeah. Well, I got to look him up. I'm sorry that I didn't put that in the news. Oh, wait. Hold on. Yes. I used to see. It's Martin, right? Martin Nodell. I used to see him at comic conventions when I was young and going to conventions. And he was like this old guy. And he would just have a regular table in Artist Alley with a simple sign that said creator of Green Lantern. But I didn't know who he was because I didn't know my comics history at that point. And it just looked, and I feel so bad. And I feel like I missed out on certain people. Like, you know, there obviously, if I knew my comics history when I was younger, I would have had plenty of opportunities to meet somebody like, say, Nodell or Jack Kirby and stuff like that. And that would have been awesome. That would have been awesome. Anyway, Crossed. Crossed is getting a movie adaptation. Specifically, The Sadness writer and director Rob Jabaz has officially signed on to direct the live-action adaptation of Crossed. The Sadness, if you haven't seen it, basically is the Taiwanese version of Crossed, just to be clear. Filming is going to start in March, so that's real soon. Script is by original writer Garth Ennis, and I kept seeing Jason Burrows credited as well. He was the original artist, so I don't know if they mean that he's helping with the script or if he's just sort of getting a producer credit. I wasn't clear on that, but they kept crediting him. The comic, if you haven't read it, it's about an apocalyptic world where people go kill crazy. They're kind of zombies, but they're alive. It's a little like, say, 28 Days Later in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like, those were like just, it's rage. They're infected with rage. But yeah, Garth Ennis is writing the script. So that's kind of cool since, you know, he started it. And if you haven't read it, it actually has like 249 issues. A bunch of different people have worked on it, but it's got a lot of issues. It's got a lot. Yeah, it's the crazies, but violent and stuff. It, you know, people like it. I am not an expert on Crossed. I think I've read a few issues. I'm sure that I have. I think actually Chrissy thought that it looked cool, and I think she bought Crossed, not me. But I'm pretty sure I read those. I just don't really remember it. Because it's had so many different series and so many different creators. But one of the Crossed series went like at least 100 issues. Yeah. All edge, no plot. Isn't that what Gillette says about their razors? All edge, no plot. Shave with us. Hot crossed buns. Whenever I hear hot crossed buns, I think of this animator that I love his weird work. His name is Brian Wysol, W-Y-S-O-L. He's got his videos up on YouTube. They're criminally underviewed. Hilarious. He's got one about a detective that investigates people that are like turned into monsters by the song Hot Cross Buns. It's hilarious. A Spidey actor worried that the show would be woke. Cool. Collider interviewed Hudson Thames. I don't know what else he's done. I didn't have time to look it up. But he's the voice actor of Spider-Man on Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which obviously just came out on Disney+. This part of the quote was what interested me. Yes, he did work on Hot Streets. Brian Wysol did. Yep. I love his work. Anyway, Thames said, I thought it was awesome. I mean, my biggest fear was that it was going to be annoying and woke, and it wasn't. And I was like, yes, this is great. It's so well written. Like, it feels real. I'm the oldest of 5 boys, so I feel like I kind of know what's happening in their lives and in high school, and felt like it was doing that justice. I think the showrunner came out and said, like, he felt that Thames was, like, not speaking quite what he meant and defended him, but yeah, kind of a weird concern. I was afraid it was going to be woke, but fortunately it's just Spider-Man. I don't know what he's talking about. Everybody knows what Spider-Man is too. Like, was he afraid that he was like getting signed up for like the Miles Morales or the Gwen Stacy version of Spider-Man or Spider-Woman? I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. But I wanted to also like talk about something, two fun things about the show. Okay. One thing is, I don't always love the animation style, but I love the animation designs. And those were done by, in large part by Leonardo Romero. Did like some of these like, ads for it. It's a great look to the show. I love the look. I really do. I really do. And then this is the coach at Spider-Man's high school in the show. A guy named Phil Grayfield. Does anybody out there already know who Phil Grayfield is? Because Phil Grayfield does have a 616 Comics counterpart. He's a character in the 616 universe. I was just curious. Yes, it's NFL Super Pro. A bunch of you know. Yup. Phil Grayfield is NFL Super Pro in the comics. So the show is full of all sorts of really weird Easter eggs like that. And that's just kind of fun. It's just weird and fun. The football goblin. Might as well. We've had like the gray goblin and the red goblin. We haven't had the football goblin yet. Anyway. Yeah, he did the voice. He was just worried that the show would be woke, he said. But it wasn't. Yeah. I love that. I love the idea of, if you're going to do any of these movies, live action shows, animated shows, I think it's a great idea to get some of the creators involved and get their 2 cents at the least, if not like outright adapting some of the popular stuff that they have done. I love the idea that, it's another payday for people that aren't necessarily getting rich off comics. And I think that, we've got proven stories that work. Bring in those people that helped make it work. I think it's a good idea. And I think that those are 2 awesome, awesome artists. Brown Goblin doesn't sound quite as cool. Brown Goblin sounds like something went very wrong. Ooh, that guy pulled a bit of a brown goblin over there, if you know what I'm talking about. Ooh. Yeah, what if Dan Mora or Daniel Sampere, were involved? What if like there was a new X-Men season and Daniel Warren Johnson worked on it? You just know that it would be crazy and cool. Somni has solid Alex Toth vibes, but so does Leonardo Romero, and actually so does Gavin Guidry. He's a guy we mentioned earlier. There's some really great artists today that have that clean, solid structure that Alex Toth was good at, but also have really good storytelling. What else do I have? Okay, now I ran out of time to put something up. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull up a window with some more news. Hold on. Because there were a few things I wanted to talk about that I just ran out of time to create my little document for. Hold on, I got to add a couple things because there's more stuff I want to talk about. Whoa, thanks for the ad. All right, this is on Bleeding Cool, obviously. 4 different IDW comics got announced as TV series. And obviously, since we were talking earlier about how they're having concerns in their annual report about being a going concern, this is potentially good timing to help the overall parent company. So this came in their investors report. Dungeon, that was by Scott Snyder and Hayden Sherman. Hayden Sherman is so hot right now because of how good Absolute Wonder Woman is. But Hayden did a bunch of great comics with Scott Snyder. One of my favorites was Dark Dungeons Wildfires. I talked that one up. But so this one's going to get moved in, turned into not a TV series, but a movie. That's a story of a family who moves to the countryside only to discover that their new home is right above a very complex torture dungeon. Totally into it. The Kill Lock. I didn't read these others, though. The Kill Lock by Livio Ramondelli. It's about 4 sentient robots linked together by a threat of simultaneous death. The Kill Lock of the title. And so that's being worked on with Amazon. The Delicacy by James Albin. James Albin's cool. That's about Scottish restaurants. About Scottish restaurants who come to London with a new kind of mushroom that proves quite the craze and is to be adapted by Warner Brothers TV. Okay, I don't know that one. And finally, Brutal Nature by Luciano Saraceno and Ariel Olivetti. That's about a young Colombian named Itch who can transform into various monsters to fight the Spanish Empire. Okay. And that's by a Mexican-based animation studio. So 4 very different projects at 4 different studios. But I think that could be fun. Look, I never root for like a company to go under. So I hope that IDW can keep it together. I think that they've been very good caretakers of Ninja Turtles, and I think that they're doing some great Godzilla books right now. They did some great stuff with Scott Snyder. Let's see. Some of the producers working on the Dark Spaces dungeon film, like Steven Schneider, are also working on the No One film adaptation. I Am No One. Very cool. Very cool. Brutal Nature is an Argentinian comic. Oh, so that was like an import, basically. Huh. Delicacy was very good. Right. These are all moving forward because they have a studio attached. Doesn't mean that they will all get filmed and picked up and everything, but they're moving forward, and that there's money involved there. So that's good. Boy, I have to admit, I don't really know Louis Trondheim. I'd have to look that up. It's a blank spot for me. I'm sorry. I love to know as much as I can, but I don't know that one. Here's another piece of news I should talk about. Joe Quesada has that new company, Amazing Comics, and they announced a bunch of upcoming titles. Hold on. Whoops. I closed the file. There we go. So AIPT has some information on that. Let's try to close some of these ads. So at Angoulême, that's going on right now. Joe Quesada was talking about his new imprint, Amazing Comics. Listen to some of these creators. They've got Derek Kolstad, creator of John Wick. Nobody. I like Nobody. J. Michael Straczynski. He's done tons of great comics as well as TV and stuff like that. Stephen Paul Judd, the writer on Dark Winds and Echo television shows. Well, let's try not to hold that against him. I'm so funny. Echo is fine. Christopher Priest. Good for you, Christopher. Yeah. They list him here as having written like Black Panther and Deadpool. That's fair. You know, these days he's been writing Vampirella for a really long time. He's written tons of great stuff. Garth Ennis. Garth Ennis is part of Amazing Comics. We just talked about him. Ethan Sachs, writer of Star Wars for Marvel Comics, co-writer of the Image Comics series Haunted Girl. Charles Dorfman, writer and director of Barbarians. That was a badass movie. Associate producer of Academy Award-winning King's Speech. Producer of the Oscar-nominated The Lost Daughter. Look at some of these artists. We've got Joe Quesada. We've got Asad Ribich. We've got Ryan Stegman. Go Ryan. And Ronin Tolhote. I don't know Ronin. Sorry. But anyway, yeah. So they're making a splash. Why wouldn't they? You know, Joe Quesada, pretty big name. So yeah, a lot of folks. JMS, who wrote Changeling, I guess. I would love Louis Trondheim. Check out Dungeon or Ralph Azam. Okay. Well, thanks for staying here. Appreciate it. Yeah, they got Ryan Stegman. That's a pretty big name right now. That's impressive to me. What else? I guess, yeah, I've got one last thing I want to talk about. Let me see if I can bring this up. You know who actually has a bunch of articles about it? Bleeding Cool. So we'll talk about the tariffs as the last sort of piece of news today. Let's see. Look at this. Valiant. Obviously, they haven't made lots of impact lately, but they're still around. They're talking about how comic prices may rise $1 because of these proposed tariffs. Proposed because they were supposed to go through this week. Trump wanted to put a tariff on all goods coming out of Canada of like 25%. That includes most of our comics. It would also be on China, which is another place that produces our comics. So basically anywhere that was producing comics, like the prices would have gone up. But they got delayed for 30 days. But yeah, the people at Valiant talked to Bleeding Cool and talked about how $4.99 wouldn't be a sustainable price point. So they'd have to increase prices by $1. And if these tariffs go through, you can expect that to happen within a matter of like a couple weeks, because it just wouldn't make sense otherwise. So that's not fun to think about. $6 for a comic is wild. Love your channels. Let's play God Super Editor. Assemble a team of creators, even dead, to write a story about any character. What are they writing? Well, if I can get anybody, I'll get like an acclaimed writer who doesn't work in comics anymore, like Alan Moore. And I'll get any of like, the hot artists of today. Your Daniel Warren Johnsons, your Dan Moras, your Daniel Sampares, your Gavin Guidry's, all these people that we've talked about tonight, your Ryan Stegmans, have them work with him on creating something new. It's pretty rough to think about, isn't it? $6 for like 28 pages, maybe at best. Like this was published obviously on the 2nd. That was yesterday. And today, the 3rd, the tariffs on everything are like basically off for like 30 days. Like we've got a delay now. But if they go through as proposed, because they were about to go through this week, it would move comics up about $1, they're saying. So yeah, Todd McFarlane's been able to keep his Spawn books at like $2.99, but there's no way he'd lose money at that point. There's no way that there's a margin there. There's just not. So yeah, these are just some of next week's comics. Yeah. Most American comics are printed in Canada and driven across the border. Hey, how's it going, kitten? So 25% duty on these books would really raise the prices. The 10% tariffs in China. Yeah. Talking about how like originally like Trump was going to put huge tariffs on them during his last term. They went down to like just 7.5% tariff, which isn't too bad. And it's understandable because, we got to still try to keep some of our business here. But the tariffs with Canada is just, a huge ally of the U.S. traditionally, huge ally. And if you increase these prices, you're going to basically kill a bunch of jobs here in America that are tied to Canadian ownership. You just would. So it's a terrible thing to think about. It's so scary. Yes, Randy, you're very kind. You make sure your creators get paid and you probably take next to nothing home. But yeah, technically you are supposed to make money on these comics. Hi, kitty. I've got a cat here that sort of wants to be on camera, but maybe not. I'm pulling one more thing up. We'll pull up one last little bit and then I'll talk about some comics and stuff like that. Share screen. Since Randy's here, I wanted to look. Randy's a good friend. I've known him for like, probably like over 20 years, right, Randy? you can get issues 1 through 7 of his superhero comic, Bullet Adventures. Bullet's the name of the superhero, Laney. I love this Chinese New Year dragon cover that they created. They've got like connecting covers. You can get issues 1 through 6, but now issue 7's coming up. Solid art, always fun story. I backed it already. I recommend it. There we go. It's a generational superhero speedster thing, but it's really fun. Really, really cool. Yeah, we've known each other a long time. It's crazy. Hey, kitty, you want to be on TV? I call this TV. I know it's not. Hi. We got a jackalope. Do you want to be on TV? Mwah. Not really. Not really, but I will be. Hello, everybody. I'm Jackie. I'm not Chris. This is Jack's voice. I got spots. Look at all my spots. Look at my butt. All right. So anyway, yeah, I recommend that Bullet Adventures. Let's add something new. I'm going to turn on another camera and we'll talk about some of the comics that came out this week. How's that sound? And maybe even last week. Tell you what, I don't have one of the comics here that I want to talk about. I just realized I left it upstairs. So I'm just going to talk about it. One of my favorite books that I read this past week was by Brian Michael Bendis. It's called Fortune and Glory. Tell you what, instead of just sort of muttering while I cover my face in case he wants to clip this or something. One of my favorite books, Fortune and Glory, the musical by Brian Michael Bendis. First of all, it's got some funny elements to it, folks. The whole thing's very funny, actually. He talks about how he was involved at one point. My cat wants to join in on the conversation. He talks about how he was involved at one point in writing the book for the Spider-Man Broadway musical, Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. I've got an episode about Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark on Comic Tropes. I really recommend watching it because it is a wild story. I actually saw the musical on Broadway, and I thought that the songs were actually really catchy, and a lot of the set design was absolutely brilliant. The performers were really strong, but there were just some weird ideas to it. You know, like Julie Taymor was the director, and she had some very strange ideas on changing the mythology, having to do with Arachne, the spider goddess, and really weird interpretations of some of the villains. But the book, it talks about some of that. The comic also is this huge biography on how he discovered comics and got into comics and broke into comics, which of course included a long period doing indie comics and self-published comics. I discovered Bendis a long time ago, reading stuff like Jinx, Torso, Goldfish. And I like that because I like crime stuff. I like crime books. I think I've talked a lot about that before, so you probably know that. But this is a really funny and cool book about working in comics and how wild and crazy it is and how hard it is to break in, but like how much you can learn from other people. It's a really great comic, guys. Fortune and Glory, the musical. Strong recommend. Strong recommend. There is a great video here on YouTube covering the whole fiasco. Well, I made one, so I recommend that. I've never read anything from the Rippaverse. It doesn't interest me. One of my favorite books, Meow. Yeah, that would be an accurate quote, thanks to my cats. But yeah, really, really cool. Okay, I knocked over a bottle. Let me add another camera real quick. Extra camera. That will work. There's a great layout. Let me move this over a little. Get this gross thing out of the way. And I'll pull up a few of the comics that I got this week. But what do I want to talk about, though, with them? Let me think this through. DSTLRY continues to be a better value than I initially thought. It really is a good value for their comics because they right now it's $9, $8.99 for an issue, and it gives you about like 48 pages of story. Geez, I cannot center this right. There we go. Oversized, so it's definitely noticeable. And I think sometimes that pauses people from picking up a book because they're like, oh, how am I going to bag that and put it in a box, etc. Don't think about that stuff. Who cares? Just put it on a shelf. But this is a good Western comic by the guys that did 100 Bullets. I do recommend it. It's fun. I think I liked 100 Bullets more, but I do like this. And I ultimately, I've yet to really be disappointed when I pick up a DSTLRY book. We're talking about prices and stuff, but this is about $1 less than if you bought 2 issues, because most comics are about $5, so that becomes $10 for like 44 pages of story. This is like $9 for 48 pages. So maybe we need to shift. This is like what I'm thinking about with this is not necessarily like a pure review of this book, but it gets me thinking that like maybe the economies of scale are such that it makes more sense to do something every 2 months or quarterly. Maybe you could release some of it online and then like, the print edition, like some of the Shonen Jump stuff is done like that. Dandadan comes out on Jump Plus and then gets collected into these tankobon. Maybe something like that would be an affordable way to move forward with comics. I don't know. It's tricky. But in Europe, they don't necessarily count on things coming out once a month. They sort of come out when they come out. Some creators are in a really good place. For instance, Brubaker and Phillips, some of my favorite creators, they release basically 2 books a month. Every 6 months, they release a full hardcover complete story. And it's a good value. $15 to $20. Oh, hey, EJ. $9 for, I think it's 48 pages. I think it's 48. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. I'm counting. Yeah, 48 pages of story plus like 1 or 2 sort of ad type things. 48 pages of story. So a little bit, a little notch more than most monthly comics. So I don't know. It's something worth thinking about. I'm open to it. I don't know if your average comic book reader would be. I don't know. You would be up for switching? The DC mini editions were great. And I think that makes a lot of sense for once you get a bunch of story together to release it in like sort of those compact. Yeah, the compact editions are a great value. I really like that. Yeah, Comixology, right. For the Scott Snyder Comixology stuff. Released it online as an issue, released it in print as like 2 at a time. It becomes a slightly better value, which, we need to think that stuff through. Let's see. We ended up getting 9. Oh, I heard about that. Yeah, 9 inches of snow here in Louisiana. Thought you'd be interested since you used to live there. Gavin Guidry was posting some pictures of it and how much his kids were enjoying playing in the snow for like the first time. That was definitely unexpected. Definitely unexpected. Another YouTuber reviewing single issues says he can't do DSTLRY because he reads digital and their digital is hard to read. I haven't tried to read their digital version, so I don't know. I don't know what their reader is like. I probably should try that so that I'm just familiar. Hey, that's awesome. Alex Braun talking about reading Cloudfall. Oh, you're still waiting on Cloudfall. Oh, you're giving EJ a hard time. Cloudfall was a long time ago. I thought that you were just saying that you were just discovering it. EJ's a great artist, has been for a long time. I remember Cloudfall. It's a Robert Kirkman book, folks. Yeah, I remember the Louisiana Purchase, and I remember saying, I'm not so sure that we need this Louisiana. I don't know if $1,000 for a few states worth of land is worth it. What would we do with it? What would we do with that Mississippi River? I don't know about this purchase, this Louisiana Purchase. And another thing. Anyway, what else came out this week? Here's a slightly oversized book, by the way, that's, I think, supposed to come out monthly, but definitely hasn't quite been doing so. Again, $9 and around 48 or 50 pages of story. So DSTLRY isn't the only one doing this way. IDW, I think, is doing very well with Ninja Turtles Last Ronin 2 Re-Evolution, although there's a few things that I do have a problem with at this point on this book. First of all, that title is way too long and unwieldy. Way too long. Let's just say something like TMNT Last Ronin. We get it. It's a continuation. Let's just simplify that, please, because that is 3 titles or a title with 2 subtitles. It's too much. It's weird. It's too much. Good value. I like the art. The art has been by like the Scorza brothers and Ben Bishop. It's good. It's totally fine. Here's what I have as an issue. I find the characters of like April O'Neil. This is set in the future. If you guys haven't read this stuff, let me do this. I find adult April O'Neil, adult her daughter Casey, and things like what's the name of Freakazoid? No, that was a cartoon. What was the name of the robot friend of theirs? Darn it. It was Zayden Honeycutt was his real name, and I'm all of a sudden forgetting the name Fugitoid? Fugitoid. That's what it was, right? Fugitoid. Freakazoid. It was Fugitoid. I'm finding those characters, though, April, Casey, Fugitoid, and the villains and stuff, I find them more interesting than the Turtles to a degree. They need to focus way more on like developing these 4 brand new Turtles. Here's what I've sort of got. We've got Odin is the kind of big, dumb, but sweet guy. And we've got Uno is the cocky, super athletic, like exceptional superstar, but like way too cocky. But then you've got Moja and Yi, and I couldn't really tell you what their personalities are. I just can't remember month to month. And they've also got powers, okay? Because these were like not just regular mutant turtles. They were exposed to like all sorts of other stuff. So they each have a power. I can't remember their powers. And we're in issue 4. We're in issue 4. And it's just so many characters. But I can remember like April and Casey and like I can't really remember the Turtles. So that's the problem I'm having with it, is that they haven't really made them iconic enough. They need to have more time spent maybe doing things like split 1 to 2 of them off at a time for a subplot so that we can like feel the interaction and the interplay and get a better sense of their personality and their look and their abilities. Instead, they're always as like 4, but they're also sort of like kids. So they're like always getting told what to do by their mentors. And it would sort of be like if you always had a Ninja Turtles book from the beginning, but 60% of it was Splinter. And you'd be like, okay, I get Splinter. I get who he is. But who's this Leo and Raphael and Mikey? You know what I mean? That's the problem I'm having, is that like, also because it comes out so infrequently, I'm sort of forgetting who these characters are. You probably, if you read it all at once, it would probably read a little more smoothly. I think that they also need a more iconic villain. I remember him, but he's not that interesting yet. You know, he's just like this super rich, like I want to say like British or Scottish guy or something, and he's got, you know, the local military and these private like knights working for him. Okay, fine, but that's not Shredder. That's not Baxter Stockman. You know, I need something more. This is a visual medium and I need something more. So it's hard for me to recommend this fully. It's hard because I like The Last Ronin. I like The Last Ronin quite a bit. And I love the idea of it continuing. Have I continued? No, I haven't really talked about G.I. Joe. I could. Wait, what? So anyway, yeah, I've got a small problem with that. The Seasons was great. You know, I had Rick on just a few weeks ago to talk about this book. Paul Azaceta on art is fantastic. Here's another guy that, like, honestly has a lot of influences of guys like Toth. Really nice and clean. It's whimsical and funny. I originally saw like this cover and heard that it was like a murder mystery of like somebody that had been like, you know, killed. And I thought this was going to be a very dark book, but I'll tell you what it really is. This is like a Miyazaki movie done by way of American comic books, or maybe even like something like a little bit of a Mobius influence here and there, or like sort of European comics, but it's a little more whimsical than I expected. Anyway, the story, just real brief. There's 4 sisters with the last name Seasons: spring, summer, winter, fall. And something happened to their parents. And basically this is going to be about them investigating it. And spring is a little flighty, but also like seems to have some either incredible athleticism or incredible luck. I'm not quite sure which one. And she's trying to just get a letter for half of it and just bumping around into all sorts of things. But it's delightful. It's delightful. It's in a sort of a fantasy world that's very close to ours. Honestly, yeah, the more I think about it, the more I think Miyazaki is a somewhat apt comparison. And I don't always like to compare things directly like that. It might set you up for disappointment. I'm just saying that there are elements of this that remind me of things like Kiki's Delivery Service, if that helps. That's specifically the one that I sort of think about. But then, like, you know, once she reads the letter, you know, she is getting like a bit of this, like, there is a bit of a darkness here, and there's some creepy stuff going on here and there. But it's nice. The art is great. It's funny. I didn't expect it, so I like that. I do recommend it. It's different. It's legit different than anything I've read before, and I'm curious where it goes. I hope it's somewhere awesome, but I'm inclined to think it could be. It's pretty special, folks. The colors look great, and you know what? I was just about to call out Mateus Lopez. Mateus Lopez is the colorist. Very good. You know what's good about them? Not a lot of rendering per se, you know? That looks like a shadow, and we don't have to like have it all wrap around and be gradients or things like that. We've got a little bit of highlights in her cheeks. That's enough. It's just a good color palette. Each page sort of gives you something a little different. It's a good color palette. It helps not distract from the artwork. This is called Seasons. The Seasons. So yeah, I do recommend it. It is really cool. Don't really need to talk about Nightclub. The regular Ninja Turtles book is good. I don't know that I've got a lot to say about it, but I will just point out that they've got artist Juan Ferreya on it, and seems like a good fit. I like some of these 2-page spreads with the action. So this is a good scene of like the Ninja Turtles sort of having a fight with some Foot Clan members that are on motorcycles, like in the middle of a highway. and there's a good sense of motion to it. I like it. There's also, boy, does this guy render teeth. There's a couple shots where people get punched in the face, and yeah, here's Leo punching Raphael in the face, and those are some pretty rendered teeth, aren't they? I haven't seen that much white enamel and spittle since the last time I looked at a Rob Liefeld comic. Let's go, everybody. But I think it's a good fit. The characters are expressive. Donatello's really interesting at this point because he's super emaciated and has lost his mind a little because he's been imprisoned for several months and forced to fight. So he's not doing great. And the brothers are very protective of him, even though they're all angry at each other. They're very protective of him right now. It feels like a real family relationship. He's carrying around a dead rat that he thinks is his father, Splinter. And he's like hearing a voice, like saying like, you know, what to do. He's like, you know, you have to like punch with conviction and not like, you know, break your own hand. You have to be, you know, united, this, that, and the other. He's got like all this good advice, right? And they finally are like, you know, Mikey or Donnie, that is not our dad. Our dad is dead. And he's like, what? But why do I hear a voice in my head? And then by the end, there's like, there's a hint that maybe Splinter is legit talking to them from beyond the veil. So they might be setting it up to somehow bring Splinter back from the dead. I mean, there's always been mystical stuff that can happen in Ninja Turtles, so I guess that's possible. Or maybe it is Donatello is a little crazy. I don't know, but it could be cool. The page where they climb the building that blends into the panels is a really cool idea visually. I think that there's a lot of good choices by Juan, and Juan is going to be the ongoing artist for at least a while. There's another punch with a lot of teeth, right? Another. I told you, but I like it overall. There have been a lot of good artists on Ninja Turtles over the years. I will say that. No, there's some good action mixed in. There's a lot of nice stuff to talk about. There's a lot of nice stuff to talk about with the art, especially, and it's developing into a cool story. Again, I think that, like, you know, we've sort of got like a sub boss as the main villain. We know that there's somebody above him. It would be interesting to spend a little bit more time with, say, Karai or whoever is heading up the Foot Clan right now. That would be cool. A cool direction would be Donnie realizing the advice is coming from his own mind and he needs to regain his self-confidence. Could be a possibility. I think that they might be bringing Splinter back. You think that would be a bad move? I think that they might be. But I don't know for sure. If they do, it's probably not just going to be done like real quick in like the next issue. It would probably be something that would get built up to. That's basically everything I picked up this week that I had to talk about. Of course, I wasn't here last week, and there were a lot of fun comics. I will say there were some... this one's just fun if you've read G.I. Joe for any amount of time. This is issue 313, and it's just a knockout, drag-out, you know, raw, busted knuckle fist fight between Destro and Cobra Commander, and they've got reason for that. So it's pretty cool. Destro's awesome. You know, he has to get through like a small army protecting Cobra Commander, and he kind of does it fairly easily because he's Destro. Larry Hama has always treated Destro with a lot of respect, and it's tricky to balance Cobra Commander with being sort of annoying and failing sometimes, with also sometimes being effective. But anyway, it's fun. Void Rivals uses Cobra Law and season 3 of the Transformers cartoon with the Skuxoid alien bounty hunter a lot. We do focus on the actual characters, Derek and Solila, who are from 2 rival factions on the same planet. They're the main characters ostensibly, but we get a fair amount of stuff from the Transformers and G.I. Joe universe. Just to be clear, I mean, this is a supporting villain from the Transformers cartoon versus supporting villains from G.I. Joe the movie. And that's kind of weird that this is happening. Something huge happens to one of or two of those characters. It's fun. It's fun because I like both of those cartoons. I grew up with them. And we get some more mythology that seems to be tying in the characters of the Ring, which is this alien planet, to some Transformers lore, but it's still a good mystery. They're only doling out little pieces at a time. I'm curious. I've talked before about how Fantastic Four is one of my absolute favorite comics right now. This is no exception. In this issue, the Fantastic Four is trying to figure out what Doctor Doom is up to ever since he became Sorcerer Supreme. He's protected his country with an invisible magical barrier, and Reed doesn't understand magic very well. So, this is clever. They go to talk to a Marvel character who is a scientist that also has ties to the occult, and that is Black Knight. Anyway, it turns out that, like, Black Knight is being mystically controlled by Doctor Doom, so he, like, anticipated them coming after him. And there's a great mystery with, like, the stuff Black Knight has done to give the Fantastic Four some tools to potentially overcome Doctor Doom. It's a really good single issue adventure where the Fantastic Four are without their powers and are getting crushed in these shrinking magical orbs. It's a good superhero issue. It's got a mystery, it's got clever character work, and it's got twists that you don't see coming. So it's really good. Yeah, Reed dealing with magic is always fun. It does look a little like a Wizard magazine. It's basically a prelude to the event, but Doctor Doom now has the powers of Sorcerer Supreme ever since the last event, which was a few months ago, Blood Hunt. And he's just sort of been off the board building up, plans. We don't know exactly what he's planning. Does not have John Byrne. I really love this. I really like Fantastic Four a lot. Even when it's ostensibly connecting to an event, it feels like it's stuff that would naturally and organically just happen in this title. It's really well done. Feral was one of the scariest issues I had recently. This deals with a rabies virus that turns animals basically into like zombies. It's like a super rabies. And all these cats have been gathered up by a hoarder. And unfortunately, like, infected cats are now attacking uninfected cats because it's just chaos in this hoarder's house. And our heroes are really, their backs are up against the wall, trying to get out of this house. And look at how they draw this lady. Look at how they draw the hoarder. It's drawn so much more realistically than the cartoon cats, because the cartoon cats sort of take place almost in their own world. They can communicate and talk with each other and do things that are slightly anthropomorphic. But then when you like have a real human being come in, it's like that's almost happening. How do I explain this? On a level, it's happening, but it's happening in a more abstract way. It's like there is a real world where they're only slightly communicating and slightly doing those anthropomorphic things. But mostly our point of view is aligned with the animals. So we can go into that slightly cartoonier world and have them anthropomorphic. But on like a higher level, it's like this is still in the real world. I just love how she looks. There's some really creepy stuff that happens in this issue. Oh, Feral is something special. I still think I like, what was it? Wasn't Dog Days, was it? What was the name of Stray Dogs? Stray Dogs was probably a little better, but yeah. Yeah, there's a Fantastic Four teaser trailer launching, I think, 7 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning. So pretty soon. The moon is following us. I can't give it away. There's a twist in this, folks. There's a twist. Although Did I talk about this like the last episode? I don't remember. Let's just say that some allies are lost and there are some betrayals. So things keep looking worse and worse for the heroes. Very cool. Final issue of Hulk drawn by Danny Earls. That's good. Oh, you know what? I didn't read this. I didn't read Ultimate X-Men yet. I forgot to. Oh, darn it. I put this in my pile. Have you ever done that? I don't think I've ever done that, but I put this in my pile and forgot to read it. And it's one of my favorites. Well, I'm setting this aside so that I read that. That was dumb. That was dumb. Wonder Woman is exceptional. I always say that. Daniel Sampere is incredible. Look at this. Giganta growing to enormous size. Donna Troy just hanging on for dear life with her lasso. And like, look at her breaking out of this mansion. This had to take some real planning, right? I mean, we look at this and you can just glance at it and get it and move on. But I gotta pause and respect that there is, let's see. Is it 3-point perspective? I think that this is 3-point perspective he's done here. And then all this rubble detail, this great pose. You just have really clean shapes. This is amazing. This is just incredible. Read it and do the voices. Ouch! Angle man, that hurts. You're excused. You've been overwhelmed. I guess that is sort of like true, that I legit got so busy that I somehow set aside one of my favorite comics and forgot to read it. Oh, tell you what. Let me give an amazing shout out to Peach's husband, Yo Mutsu. So, Chrissy and I are there in Japan, and she ends up in the hospital, right? And I just sort of vaguely posted, hey, this is something we're dealing with. I don't get into the details, but I talk about how I am stressed out. And actually, a number of viewers of my show reached out to say, like, you know, hey, I've got a friend there that, you know, I could put you in touch with if you need help translating, or I live here and I could come meet you. But I didn't really want to involve like somebody that I would consider a stranger into, like, you know, our health issues and stuff like that. It felt kind of weird. It felt like one extra step of stress. But I slightly know Yo, right? Because I did the episode interviewing Peach. Yo helped obviously do the translating, and I've talked to him a little online. Super amazing guy. Works so hard to manage Peach's career and keep like their home, like, you know, running, like, you know, walking the dog and cooking meals and stuff. He's an amazing guy. Really, really kind. Well, Yo reached out to me and said, you know, if you guys are having trouble with this, I'm willing to get on a train and come to Tokyo and help you. And that one meant a lot to me. That one I just want to shout out that actually gave me a bit of peace of mind, because I was like, okay, you know what? I think I'm handling this. But if it got overwhelming, it is nice to know that somebody that I at least know a little bit is willing to come in and help. That just the fact that I knew that I had that to potentially fall back on really helped me have some peace of mind and made me feel like I could handle it. And I did. I didn't need Yo to come, but it was very, very kind of him, and it was something that meant a lot to me. And I just want to say that, like, you know, a lot of us are fans of what Peach does, and behind the scenes, Yo is helping her, you know, be a sounding board and help do translation and do a lot of aspects of managing her art career. Oh, by the way, what I almost forgot. Look, I got this in Japan. This is a Peach Momoko painted shirt done for the New Japan Pro Wrestler El Desperado. Isn't that cool? I got that in Japan. I found a store that was like selling these, and fortunately they had one in my size when I asked. They had one. They were almost all sold out. So anyway, Yo is an incredible guy, and it meant a lot. That's all I wanted to say. Meant a lot. So I wanted to shout that out. But yeah, isn't that an awesome shirt? I think Peach did a really cool shirt there. I'm glad I got to show that. Last book I'll talk about is awesome. This is one of the coolest issues of Ultimate Spider-Man yet. Kraven the Hunter has Harry and Peter up against the wall. This is such a badass version of Kraven. But then we also get this. If Peter Parker is, trapped and trapped in everything, who's this? Who's this, right? A Spider-Man? Another Spider-Man? It's Spider-Man's son, Richard. Richard has this symbiote, and the symbiote is just making himself look like his dad here, but it's a symbiote. This is a totally different idea on the Venom story. But we might have either another, or maybe this could become the main Spider-Man. I have no idea. It's just a small subplot. But this is Richard talking to a symbiote who has his father's personality and memories like encoded to it. It's so cool. It's so cool. And of course, the art. Marco Cicchetto is one of the best Marvel has right now. No question. Family. Anyway, that's just a subplot, though. This Kraven is a badass, and he is just he's determined to hunt these two superheroes who've been interfering with the Kingpin's business, essentially. And it's kind of cool seeing them on the run in this Ultimate Universe's version of the Savage Land. The Savage Land in this is an underground world way beneath New York City that the Mole Man controls. And that's a fun mix of ideas. The Mole Man has always been an underground guy, but, traditionally he's got these access to these crazy kaiju and weird monsters and stuff like that. And the Savage Land is down in the middle of Antarctica. But I'm totally cool with the idea of a version of the Savage Land existing deep under Manhattan and Mole Man controlling it. And that's the grounds that Kraven will hunt them in. This issue was badass. Had all sorts of unexpected stuff. The art was incredible. A bit the 3 rules was funny. Rule number 1, stay away from Mary Jane. Yes. So anyway, I love it. Mole Man hit by football. I get that reference. I am too. I think that and I look at that and I go, we've got the Absolute line at DC and the Ultimate line at Marvel at basically the same time. We've got soft reboots of things like Ninja Turtles, and we've got new versions of 80s properties like Thundercats, Silverhawks. Earlier we were talking about Captain Planet. And I go, is this too much sort of pandering to my generation versus new ideas? On one level, maybe. And on another level, I go, no, wait. Mythology, to stay alive, has to be reinterpreted. We don't just do Shakespeare again and again. And I know that this is lofty to compare some of these superhero books to Shakespeare, but bear with me for this analogy. Shakespeare, we reinterpret with different actors or different settings for the story. And that reinterpretation keeps it relevant. And then we go back to the originals and stuff like that. So I think that is a necessary component to keeping fiction alive, is finding ways to remix it and come up with twists on it, and also going back to the original. Let me just highlight this. I'm laughing out loud thinking of you saying family as Vin. Don't do it, though. I've seen you hurt yourself doing it in the past. Well, now I feel like I have to. You gave me $5.
Name's Dominic Toretto, and welcome to Olive Garden when you hear your family.
I did it. Oh, that's beautiful. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm never against the idea of reinterpreting some of these ideas, and it ultimately all depends on how good is the execution to justify that reinterpretation. But I feel like right now we are getting some real quality reinterpretations. Absolute Wonder Woman, Ultimate Spider-Man, The Ultimates, Absolute Batman. These are great books right now. Great, in my opinion. They're great. So I'm for it. And I hope that there is still also room for cool new ideas. But I think that there is. I think that we are seeing a lot of good creator ideas at places like Image and DSTLRY, as just some two examples off the top of my head. So yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with it as long as we're getting quality stuff like this. These are I didn't read this one yet, admittedly, but the Ultimate Universe is really fun, and I love the Absolute Universe too. I just do. Not 100% sure what I'm going to be doing next for Trash Movie Bonanza, because I was on my trip, and now Jim is actually in Greece for a convention. So we haven't really talked about it, letting each other take our trips, but I'm sure that we'll come up with something cool. The Superman episode did pretty well for us, so that was nice. I did read that Nerd Nonsense. I read it, and it was a cool, kind of dark twist. Yeah. That's an interesting way of phrasing it. Cultural transmission in action. I like that. Have I been going extra long tonight? I guess so. Well, I'm having fun. IDW were pitching for Inhumanoids at one point. Oh, I bet I could see that. Like when they had like Transformers and G.I. Joe, they went after another Hasbro property. Inhumanoids was a kind of a cool idea that was way too creepy for me at the age I was when I was into G.I. Joe and Transformers. Inhumanoids legit seemed scary to me, which I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, the kind of horror movies that I watch and stuff like that, or the news that I follow. It's crazy to think that stuff creeped me out, but it did. It legit did. So I was just sort of doodling a War Machine and Blade the other day because it's Black History Month. I'll think of like a couple of black heroes that I like, and these are two of them. So I'll take off my glasses and draw for a little bit and just take questions because I feel like it, and then I'll get some dinner. But thank you all for things like the super chats and the kind comments and the interesting questions. It means a lot to me. I hope you know that. I hope that I'm showing adequate appreciation for all of you. Thank you, Larry. Here's 5 for actually doing the impression. Okay. For Trash Movie Bonanza, Tiptoes, the Fanatic double feature, both are weirdly problematic. Yeah, I just know that for Tiptoes specifically, whoever the studio is that does that goes after people hardcore for using clips, because I'm a fan of bad movie reviews, and there's a reason there aren't many videos on YouTube about Tiptoes. There's a bunch of podcasts. There's not many about Tiptoes. If you guys don't know, that's a movie where Gary Oldman plays a little person. And he's literally, it's Gary Oldman, quality, amazing actor. And he's like walking around on his knees in shoes, but that's not for a joke. Oh, yeah. All those Marvel Sunbow productions for Hasbro shared a bunch of voice actors. There are so many comic books about the comic business. First of all, A great one that's fictional but based on true stories is The Dreamer by Will Eisner. Golden Age creator. There's a lot you can learn from that. If you're curious about manga, again, this is fictional, but Bakuman was a long series about two high school friends that decide they want to become popular manga creators together, and about their journey in getting better at all the different aspects it takes to make comics, as well as interfacing with editors and, getting the public on board with new ideas. And these are just comic books about that. What's another good one? Dan Clowes did a character called Pusey, Pussey, and that's a scathing look at comics. There's a bunch of comics about making comics. More recently, Chip Zdarsky writes and draws a great one called Public Domain about a sort of a Silver Age artist who co-created a character, and a company kind of like Marvel has the rights to it. And then through some legal loophole, he gets back the rights to be able to make his own comic books about that character. And he brings on his somewhat estranged sons and like his neighbors and stuff like that. Like they each have different talents that can like help make a good modern comic. So Public Domain is a great one. I don't generally do like reactions, but I am curious to see that tomorrow for sure. I don't know that I really was inspired to draw by a comic specifically. I've been drawing since I was as little as I can remember. I've always enjoyed playing with pencils and inks and crayons and markers. I've always enjoyed it. I don't know that, like, because I discovered comic books later. Comic strips, of course, would have influenced me a little, but I don't know that, like, that's really where my inspiration or my drive, my passion for drawing quite came from. It just lines up. I'm like, well, I love drawing and I love this storytelling medium of comics. I like how those intersect. Does that make sense? It wasn't like a comic really inspired me, though. Tiptoes is such a weird movie. I tried to have it like cropped somewhat tightly, but I can see a little of that. The Fanatic is in, Fred Durst, John Travolta. You need a guest appearance? Okay. I could potentially see that being one that we would at least have fun talking about. We mostly, of course, focus on, like schlock horror and sci-fi and superhero stuff in the show, but maybe. Art of Saw, just want you to know, I did mail out that Vampirella statue that I owe you. I know that the first one got lost in the mail. Just letting you know, I'm sorry that I'm so slow, but I did mail one out to you, okay? So sorry that it took so long, but you're there, and I just thought I'd say that. I'm reading Drawing Blood. It's an interesting premise. It kind of lost me a little. I'm not super into it. It's okay. I'm still reading it. I just can't give it a strong recommendation. But it is sort of a look at behind the scenes of comics. Can you talk about the comic book you'll be creating? Well, I've got a lot of ideas and stuff, but the one that I'm actively developing right now, like I did some rewriting on my trip, is simply at the heart of it, it's a werewolf horror story, okay? But I've been trying to think like, okay, I know that I've got some fun ideas for, the scary stuff of werewolves attacking and doing some unique, attacks and kills and this, that, and the other. That part, that wasn't the hard part. The hard part to me was like thinking of what I wanted to say with the protagonist that would be worthwhile, and like what character arc would I put somebody through that's just sort of trying to survive. And I think I did find an emotional core of like what the character wants. And then on top of that, I go, okay, but here's like another problem with like a werewolf movie, you know, like is what could I build up to for an emotional climax? And like have it mean something, have it be actual personal and relatable for us that have never actually been attacked by werewolves. And I think I also cracked that in a way to have like, you know, a family relationship at the core that isn't distracting but additive. And so I've been putting like, I put a lot of thought into the structure of my stories. And I know that like some people are, they can just sit down and write, and that's cool. For me, I guess I just try, I'm very structured, and I care a lot about the character journey. That's the part that interests me most. The plot part of it, I feel like I can just always come up with interesting plot type of ideas. That just isn't the challenge. Instead, I want to say like, how do I make it so that like somebody's reading this and at the end they feel something out of it? So anyway, it's I don't want to give away everything, because then it wouldn't be enjoyable for all of you when it comes out. But it is like a bunch of werewolves attacking people, and they're just trying to survive. And I think that I've got a good location and good variety of weird characters, and I just don't think that there are lots of good vampire. I was about to say vampire. There's not lots of good werewolf stories out there. In fact, just recently, I saw the movie Werewolves and The Wolf Man, and I came out of both of those feeling like, okay, maybe this is probably arrogant of me, but I think I've got a better concept. It's simple, it's not deep, but I think it'll be fun. So I appreciate you asking. I'm really excited to. I just need to get a good artist. I need to get an artist because I'm too slow. An isekai harem? No, not doing that. Wolf Cop. Wasn't that a real movie? Dude, if you didn't hear about it, I don't blame you, but there was this movie that came out like a month ago or something. It was called Werewolves. It was like a low budget horror movie, but it got into theaters. It felt like a 90s direct to cable type movie. I laughed out loud so hard when the first shot of the movie came up because I didn't expect it. It doesn't spoil what the movie is. It tells you the premise. They've got it in text. Like you're seeing something fancy like, Star Wars, or I think Lawrence of Arabia may have started with like text, if I'm remembering right. It goes, last year, the supermoon came close to Earth and caused 1 billion people to turn into werewolves. This year, the supermoon is coming close again, and scientists have been hard at work to prevent it. I'm like, what? Love Dog Soldiers. Dog Soldiers is one of the few werewolf stories that I think is awesome. I think it's really cool. Underrated. Oh, yeah, I supported that one too. Watching you work while talking about your upcoming werewolf story inspires me, even though I'm 65 and I'm working on my own graphic novel. I don't think you're ever too old as long as you're enjoying the process. How long does a page take you from pencils to colors? Well, I don't generally do colors, first of all. I experiment with it for myself, but I don't consider myself great at colors. It's probably my weakest area, color theory. If I had it as a job and just sat down and had to draw and ink a page, I think if it was the only job I had, it would still probably take me about 2 days to do a page. Whereas really you need to do a little bit faster than one a day if you want to like keep up in this industry. You can probably work at my pace if you have made a name for yourself and you can like sort of pick and choose your projects and sort of get a head start on them and take a break in between to get ahead on the next one. But Yeah, I think I'm just a little too slow. And then, of course, I'm like doing a pinup is one thing, but doing sequential pages and figuring out the storytelling decisions is another challenge. And I think that slows me down. Getting too caught up in trying to get it perfect instead of just going like, nope, this is what works. Keep going. And every once in a while, you might have inspiration for a good idea, but otherwise, just keep going, because you got to have that attitude if you want to just get comics done. That you can kind of let things go without being perfect. You're okay with just working on them, and leaving them when they're okay or good. Sequentials are time devourers. Yeah, they really are. Yeah. To do them well anyway, right? And to like actually have a meaningful establishing shot with like, a well rendered background, so that like the reader can every once in a while just go like, okay, I know the spatial relationships of everybody. I've got a digital pad here that I can mess around with for fun, and there was a time when I did a lot of drawing digitally, but that's not now. I mostly prefer to work with traditional materials these days. Yeah, good question, but I just prefer. Eggers to do an adaptation of Frankenstein. Boy, I think he'd do great. I never saw the Benicio del Toro one, now that you mentioned that. That's right. I forgot. I think I missed that one. I've got the first volume of it. Teo Matsumoto's Tokyo. Yeah, These Days. Very good. Very cool. That was actually one Daniel Warren Johnson recommended to me, and my nephew bought it for me because I told him that it sounded interesting. I said my backup is in issue 32 of Radiant Black. Issue 31 comes out later this month. That's the fresh jumping on point. Issue 32 has my small contribution. I will back your comic at $250 if you credit it as written by Christopher Tropes III. I know you want to make that happen, Dave, but I don't need $250 that bad. Or do I? Maybe I do. I'll think about it. I was seeing if my eyelid was working properly. I'm playing with my eyes. Anyway, sorry. Del Toro's Wolfman is fine. Trademark. Troperino. Best place for people learning how to draw to check out. I got the How To from Marvel, but always looking for more teachers. Well, there are plenty of great books, okay? You can get some great anatomy books by guys like Bern Hogarth, and you can like take what you can from that. I sincerely think you're going to learn the most from drawing from life. And if you can take a class where you get models and stuff and you're timed, that's the best. If you can't afford a class, I'd also recommend things like, say, Dr. Sketches or a similar life drawing thing where maybe a model is still doing timed poses. It forces you to capture gesture and shapes fast, and then you slowly get more time throughout the night, typically, to render. But I really think that will force you to get past any bad habits because you're just focusing on a goal, a timed goal. If you can't afford even that, I just say take a sketchbook on, the subway, take it to the park, take it to the zoo, wherever you can, where you can see people, and just sort of sit on a bench of some sort and just draw what you see. And I know that doesn't necessarily sound exciting, but I promise you that if you do that, that's gonna elevate your skills a lot faster than anything you get from a book. But if you can take any sort of class or life drawing session where it's timed, that's really going to help. Well, hey, EJ Sue is about as good as you can get, in my opinion. In my book, EJ is incredible. Andrew Loomis. And that's also a good suggestion. Proco has some online classes that you can take. Timed poses in his course, $200. I think that's honestly a fair deal for what you get out of it. It depends on how much you want it. And if you want it, yeah, you can do it. Nerd Nonsense. Yes, Dynamite Thor is public domain. But I think that like some Comicsgate people did a Dynamite Thor book a couple years ago. But yeah, he is public domain if you had a good idea. Steve Rude gives drawing tips. That's nice. Yeah. I don't know Drawbox. But I do think that drawing from life gets you past bad habits. You'll develop a style. You just will. You instead of trying to copy a style or anything like that, draw from life, and that'll help you with people and cloth and furniture, things like that. Then you probably will have to take a dedicated class of some kind, either in person or online, to understand things like perspective and more technical aspects like architecture or vehicles. That's a different sort of set of skills in a lot of ways. Bone structure insertion points are underrated and underserved topics that I would go back in time and tell my younger self. Yeah, books on anatomy are always super, super useful. Frank Frazetta allegedly was given an anatomy book when he was just starting out as an assistant, doing sort of gopher work at a comic studio. And a guy's like, hey, if you want to learn, just like read this book. And the next day, Frazetta had it to return. And the guy's like, already you're returning it to me? Like, you're supposed to read it. He goes, oh, I like drew everything that I saw on every page last night. I just stayed up all night. And I'm probably like getting it slightly wrong, but it was something like that. And that was how Frazetta learned anatomy. It was just by copying everything he saw, not tracing it, just copying it and really understanding how muscles tie into each other, as well as like what bones lie underneath others. It's a very impressive story. Might be a little exaggerated, to be fair, but the point stands. Perspective is super important for comics specifically, because you're going to end up having to draw cities and buildings and things like that, houses, even vehicles. And sometimes you can fake a little of it, if I'm being completely honest, but you can't fake it until you actually know how to do it. And it's going to look so much better when you know how to do it. So much better. There are some channels that have models doing different poses for time periods. That I didn't know, because I've never thought to look for it, but it makes sense. So useful. So useful. You know who does some great sketches of just when he goes out, sees the world? Hold on. I'm just bad at names, so I'm thinking for a minute. I'm typing something in. All of a sudden it just came to me. Actually, I remember. Jason Latour. Famous for Spider-Gwen, of course. Dealt with some stuff and isn't really doing a comic these days, but he's a great artist. He's a great artist, and he draws from life all the time. And his social media has a lot of great sketches from just being out and about in the world. And it's really inspiring stuff. I just backed Death Fight Forever by Andrew McLean and Alexis Zirit, and Dracula Book 2 by Matt Wagner and Kelly Jones, and I cannot wait. I thought that the Dracula book by Wagner and Jones was supposed to be a trilogy, but he corrected me and said, no, like, this is way more than 3. This is like going to go on for a long time. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Cool. Gene Bond has great videos on perspective. Okay. The Conqueror is the one where he plays Genghis Khan, right? If it is, yeah. And that's a depressing movie behind the scenes. They filmed in the desert where the government had tested nukes. So a lot of the people ended up coming down with cancer that worked on that movie. Super depressing for a not great movie. Boy Kills World was fun. Yeah. John Wayne as Genghis Khan. Hey, I'm a Mongol, all right, and I'll have you know I'm gonna conquer the world. What? Who thought that was a good idea? Well, was the marketing genius that came up with that one? What's the deal? And where's my dinner? Elaine, where's my dinner? I'm Jerry. I remember Frank Cho gifting Robbie Rodriguez how to draw the Frank Cho way during their beef. I didn't know about that beef. Wow. When Charlton Heston also played a Mexican? That one's not coming to me. I've seen a good amount of Charlton Heston, excuse me. I was still thinking of John Wayne. Charlton Heston. That's not coming to me. I just on my vacation started Severance. I've only seen like 3 episodes. It's really cool. A comic that feels like it. That is a cool question because I feel like there are weird, quirky, mysterious introspection of like the human soul. Oh, but nothing's coming to me right now. Touch of Evil, people are telling me, was the one where Charlton Heston played a Mexican. I guess I haven't seen Touch of Evil. Severance is good so far. You know what? I'll watch one of those tonight. I only have Apple Plus for a short time. I had to get a new phone, and that just comes with 3 months of Apple Plus. So I was like, well, I'll watch some of the ones that people have been talking up. But I'm not going to be able to keep paying for like another streaming service or something. So it's temporary. I hope you guys know that I really appreciate you being here and chatting like this. And this is how sometimes I get good recommendations or jokes that I can just steal and impress my wife with. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. Or would I? I'm thinking through on this drawing. I want to like make this upper body stuff black, and I'm trying to think of how I can do that while still preserving some of this detail. And maybe that's just not the point right now. Maybe I don't preserve the detail. I'm seeing what it would look like with a bunch of perpendicular lines as a type of shading, essentially. Just thinking this through. Yum. I've heard of Touch of Evil. I just didn't realize that was... So Charlton Heston and Orson Welles together. I didn't realize that, I don't think. Oh, yeah. You know, I think that for comic scripting, you can take a lot of the same lessons that you can from just writing in general, figure out structure, figure out pacing, figure out character arcs. Like why is this story even worth telling? You know, it has to have either the main character is definitely different in some way by the end, having learned something and come back to, like, you know, the starting point, or if the character hasn't learned anything, at least for us, the audience, the story is recontextualized completely. Okay, there's like some sort of a twist or a change to the story where we realize, oh, this is what's happened. So it's changed us. So it either has to change the main character or us. It has to. Otherwise, it's not worth really telling, in my opinion. And then, like, for comics specifically, I just say that, like, all of a sudden, economy of words is going to be your greatest ally. Brevity is the soul of wit, as who was that poet? British poet. Brevity is the soul of wit. It's not coming to me right now, but, you know, you want to be as efficient with your dialogue as possible, but dialogue still has to do more than just be exposition. It has to tell you something about the character. So you have to really choose how somebody talks extra carefully, in my opinion, in a comic as compared to a book or a movie or TV show. Oscar Wilde. Thank you. Oscar Wilde. Thank you, everybody. That was it. Yeah. All right. Smarty Pants first answer. That's only because Dave sits around staring at pictures of Oscar Wilde every night, looking for opportunities to mention him. And I just, like, made his night by mentioning Oscar Wilde. That's all. That's the only reason that happened. Oh, okay. Okay. Do I recall Darwin Cook drawing Superman, and was it any good? Darwin Cook was great on everything. It's a huge loss that we do not have him anymore. Yes, Darwin Cook was exceptional, and his Superman was no exception to that. I got to meet Darwin Cook because he was giving a speech at I think it was hosted by the Smithsonian. And it was when I was living in DC anyway. And it was a really bad snowstorm. So the event was kind of lightly attended because it was such a bad snowstorm. And that also meant that some of us were, like, really, like, hesitant to, like, go back out into the snow after the event. And Darwin and his wife stayed in the lobby and just chatted with the few of us one-on-one for quite a long time about, you know, comics and storytelling. And he's just a really nice and really funny guy in real life. Really down to earth and cool. And it was a great memory that I have. Like, I really, really had a great time. And I miss him. I miss him a lot. I'm sure that other people that were close friends of him miss him way more than I can say, but I sincerely miss him because I liked his work. And after meeting him, I was like, oh, this guy's great. I'm going to, like, you know, I'll follow him and whatever he wants to do for a comic to the end of the earth. Well, it's kind of you. Just probably giving basic advice, I suppose. Parker should be required reading for every aspiring comic artist. It's good. So it's really good. I still recommend you to watch the movie After Sun. After Sun. Okay. Anything else by Greg Smallwood besides Human Target? Well, I mean, if you liked his work there, you can't go wrong with Greg Smallwood. Let me just quickly refresh my memory on the stuff he's done that I and see if I oh yeah, he has a good Moon Knight arc, actually. You might like his Moon Knight work. What else was good? He did a Batman black and white story I remember being cool. I don't remember which issue it's in. You'd have to Google that. What else did he do that I really liked? There was something else he did that I liked. I'm trying to look at his bibliography to try to remind myself. Sorry. Wasn't expecting to get asked it, but I really like his work, so yeah. Oh, that's right. He did do Punisher. He did do Spider-Man. Huh. I'm not coming across the one I was thinking of yet. What did he do? I really want to figure it out now. Sorry. I'm just looking at his full bibliography, trying to remind myself what I read by Greg Smallwood that I liked so much. Did he do Jughead the Hunger? I'm trying to remember. He did a couple Archie things. And I'm feeling like that might have been the one I'm thinking of, because it was definitely horror. Was it something else? Vampironica? Maybe it was Vampironica that I'm thinking of. It's not coming to me. Sorry. Human Target is pretty exceptional, though. I'll just say that. Like, that's a big highlight, okay? So, yeah. Can you guys hear Jack meowing upstairs? He's clearly hungry now, and he's meowing again. I'm just curious how loud he is. Jack! Oh, well. Maybe it's time to feed him and call this a night. I appreciate you guys being here. This was a fun one for me, just to get caught up and riff on news and stuff like that. Sorry I started a little late and was like a little distracted at first. Just got a lot going on, but overall, life is good. Life is good. I'm happy. I'm excited. I've got one comic tropes in the works and a bunch of ideas for some upcoming stuff that I think people will enjoy. I hope people will enjoy. But the latest episodes have been doing pretty well, so that's nice to see. Feels like sort of threaded that needle of giving people what they want versus what interests me. It's always a challenge. And hopefully I can continue it, because it makes it worthwhile. It makes you feel like you're doing something that isn't a waste of anybody's time. But I think that comics are always worthy of analysis. I think comics just have given us a lot to think about with talking about the human condition. And yeah, so I appreciate your continued support there. And just keep your eye out for some future projects. I would sincerely appreciate it if you made a mental note to ask your shop to actually order Radiant Black 32 instead of just trying to pick it up, just because then if there was like a bump of any kind on those numbers, that would probably lead to me getting to do a few more projects. But to get that bump, you need to like actually ask the store to order it. If they know you're going to buy it, they're happy to do that. Yeah, you're 3 hours. No, you're 2 hours ahead of me. I'm 11. I'm 11 right now. So I'm going to call it a night. Yep. Radiant Black number 32. Number 32. So I'd appreciate it if you'd consider asking your shop to order it. It would mean a lot to me. But I think you'll like it. I do. So you'll hear me talk about it a little more in the coming days and weeks. But I'm going to call it a night. I had a good time talking comics and drawing with all of you. I hope you guys are doing well. I really do. It means a lot to me to know that people are healthy and happy. And I'll try to keep creating some entertainment and education. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to call it a night. And until I see you next time, keep reading comics and double salute. Bye, everybody.